Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates, and welcome back to the channel and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025. And my beautiful astrology soulmates, as we arrive at this final calendar month of 2025, I just want to take a pause and say thank you. Thank you so much for traveling with me through every new moon, every eclipse, every retrograde this year, and for your courage to continue to show up and learn to speak the language of astrology and allow it to guide you as you are and as you are becoming. Now, whether you've been with me for years and you're one of our OG soulmates or you're brand new to our tribe, I just want to say you're all welcome here. I am so grateful that we get to join together here, and thank you for letting me be of service to you, to our community, and to the world in this way. We have walked through this year major collective shifts. And though December in this calendar way, I think feels like this ending to the numbers that are on the calendar, in Western astrology, we really don't put our end until we get into March. So I just want to continue to extend this understanding that there is still time to learn, to soften, to grow, and to integrate all of these things that have been being unfolding within us. In December, we are not rushing. We're not rushing resolution. We're really in a space of integration. We're refining the truth of what's real and what we found out in the new world that we're all exploring together. We're seeing what the next cycle is going to carry for us as we move ahead. The December sky is more of a teacher of integrity and lessons that come with that clarity, accountability, and the maturity to keep walking as we're kind of the goo in the middle. You know what I mean? Where you're not this thing anymore and you're not the next thing yet. You're kind of that stuff in the middle. And we've got to let some of the glitter wear off so that we can actually see what it is that we're working with. So we're going to cover very briefly a summary of that in this video, but also timestamps are in the description box down below so that you can go right to your sign for the month and take a listen to what's unfolding. Now, first and foremost, before we do any talking, it's really important that if you want to really speak the language of astrology, that you make sure you have your own natal chart so that you can see now and all year long as we travel together where these events are unfolding in your own particular chart. Now, for some of you, we all need our natal charts, right? So you got to start with your natal chart. Some of you may be going on and you're studying your astrology through the lens of that progress chart, or you're watching your solar arcs, or you're looking at the weight against a solar return chart. Whichever chart benefits you the best. Please make sure that you bring it as you show up to listen to the forecast, but definitely click in the description box down below. Get your own natal chart so that you can be speaking and really be a part of the conversation, because I'm going to give you a general overview. Anybody on YouTube is giving you a general overview, but I want you to have the best. And the best astrology is your astrology, and we can only get that if we're looking at your chart. Okay, let's do a walkthrough of the December story. We're coming in with the full moon happening in Gemini on the 4th, and this is open, bright, talkative lunation, and it illuminates how we listen, how we share, and how we connect. However, this lunation, as you're going to hear about in your individual lunation video, this lunation is squaring to the nodes, so there's a karmic tension that is on the docket for us. It feels really urgent to say something, but maybe what you want to say is not the most meaningful thing that someone needs to hear. So it's a reminder here at the beginning of the month that the truth and noise are not the same thing. So when we get to the 10th, we've got another really big moment, although I know some people don't care about the outer planets. I do. Neptune is one of our professor planets, which means it's a part of setting the syllabus that is non-negotiable, that we are all going to be learning from. And Neptune has been traveling through Pisces since 2014. This has been a long symphonic conversation for all of us. Neptune moved forward into Aries, but is now back through retrograde into Pisces, and is now turning direct at the 29th degree of Pisces, the final degree of not just Pisces, but the final degree of our entire zodiac. This is closing that 14-year chapter. Think about this as this last deep exhale before this next great inhale of your own spiritual revolution is going to be presenting itself. Now, this degree in and of itself carries something that I don't want any of us to forget. It is urgent, it is important, but the 29th degree, this is encompassing everything we've experienced. It carries wisdom. It's the wisdom of every dream, every delusion, every divine encounter that you have had over the past decade. If you felt disoriented emotionally, if you've had illness come up in your body, if you've had spiritual revelation, this is a full moment to begin to clear the fog as to why that happened and what its significance was. Now, I don't know about you, but the first time that Neptune passed the 29th degree, I found myself crying without even knowing why. I have found myself throughout this journey coming to different points and stops and offering forgiveness that even some I was denying. So if you're finding yourself, if tears, which are just liquid prayers, are finding their way out of your body, it's bringing closure. If forgiveness is rising up through you, whether it's for yourself or for others, it's bringing a closure. It's bringing the space to finally feel the peace and forgiveness around all the things that did not go as planned. When we get to the 11th, Mercury is going to be back in Sagittarius. Now, review your November transits as well, because we already saw Mercury in Sagittarius and in Scorpio as we had this retrograde conversation. But as Mercury comes back to Sagittarius, it's bold, it's fiery. Perspective is expanding here. And as the fog has lifted from the Mercury retrograde energy, the direct retrograde energy, now you can more easily plan your roadmap even for 2026. What's the big picture and the overarching theme as you want to step into the next year? Are you teaching? Are you going on a journey? Are you publishing, marketing, broadcasting? What kind of truth and storyteller will you be in 2026? However, remember, as Mercury travels in Sagittarius, tact is everything. Truth meeting tact is really important, because when we tell a truth and we do it with vengeance or brutality, that's just incorrect. It's just an unkindness. But when we tell the truth with a rigorous honesty, this is when we are telling the kind of truth where we can share a vision and correct or move forward situations. When we get to the 15th, absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Mars is moving into Capricorn, and Mars is exalted in Capricorn because they like to get stuff done. They like to work on things. They like to do things. Now, where we're going to be doing things and how we're going to be doing them is Capricorn style, with integrity, with structure, and you are going to earn your success as Mars is traveling through Capricorn, because Mars being exalted here, it's not reckless. It is resilient, right? I get excited to talk about how this energy can work, because it's where your passion finds some kind of purpose and structure in how to get it together, but also we're often given more motivation to get things done, because now we're not looking for the pop. We're not looking for the flare. We're all building in a way where we realize it has to be grounded, solid, slow, and it will create something that is enduring. And I don't care if you have built something, or you tried to build something this year and it failed, or you tried to have a relationship and it failed, what you know under Mars and Capricorn, that is, I think, the most important lesson is that you can build. You can build. And this is a skill, right? You can build. So maybe you're recommitting to a health plan and you tried to build it before and it didn't quite work, but you built a little something. So you know you can build there. Recommit, rebuild there. Sign up for that business class, sign up for that finance class, sign up for whatever, because you can build. And as you rebuild, or add an addition, if you do it with consistency, you are going to rock and roll with this Mars and Capricorn energy. Then we'll have the new moon moving through Sagittarius on the 19th, and this new moon does come with a bit of challenge, and I want to put this out here. You'll hear about it in your separate new moon video, but the new moon in Sagittarius is your chance to plant your seeds of intention in all ways that stretch your faith, that broaden your horizon. However, This lunation is coming not only a yod, but we see the squares also happening to Saturn and Neptune. So while you're trying to plant your seeds of intention to get something going, this one's a little bit harder to get off the ground, and you have to stand in the discomfort of what you are seeing and what you are experiencing to this moon in order to have enough motivation to make the changes and take the action that needs to be taken. The yod, we call it the finger of God. It presents an area of tension here, and it's funneling all of this discomfort through your first start, that through your new moon. That's why I say it is actually the tension, not being able to resolve it, but having to feel it in every way, is that's what gets your attention. So this energy at this new moon is unmistakable. This space between some kind of idealism versus the realism of what needs to happen. Remember, how you're going to get this done right now is Mars in Capricorn. We need the structure to be here. There's an inspiration that you've had, and maybe it's beautiful and it's wondrous, but now it needs responsibility and structure. It's also, I think, a little bit of a spiritual checkpoint, because you are being asked to integrate the vision with the structure. But more than that, the question that I think will be in your mind and on your heart is, why am I building this? Who does this serve? Why? Why? And if you can find the why, the how will sort itself out. When we get to the 21st, we enter the solstice, and depending on which one of our friends you are, you'll either be in your winter or your summer solstice. Here in the US, we'll be coming into the winter solstice. The sun moves into Capricorn, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality. The light back in the northern hemisphere. There's a new scene coming in. Our spirits kind of know that this is where we're going. But in Capricorn, our next cardinal energy, this is the birth of new integrity. And it's new integrity that's coming off of also experiencing conversation with the nodes all year. This is not perfection. It's not integrity done by perfection. It's integrity done to the North Node sign, which is alignment, alignment between my spirit, my actions, and my truth. Now, as we are going to close out December of 2025, we have got on December 24th, Venus now coming into the vibration of Capricorn, joining both the sun and the solstice energy, joining the Mars energy as well, and bringing in a salve, bringing in a remembrance for all of us to receive, receive, receive. Value yourself, value yourself, value yourself. Love, money, values, relationships become more grounded in the vibration of Capricorn. It's not about that fairy tale romance. It's not about that fairy tale money. It's not about that fairy tale life. It's not about the overnight riches. It's about devotion and stewardship and choosing quality over quantity every single time. My beautiful friends, as we're going to close out 2025, I think the sky does not offer us an instant revolution, or excuse me, resolution here in December. Instead, it's offering a space that I feel is the strength to walk through it and to continue to walk through it together while we're the goo in the middle. So we're ending this calendar year, not the astrological one. There's still time for you to integrate what you have learned, prepare for the rebirth of what's next. You're not behind. You are not behind. You're just learning to integrate and recalibrate to the new vibration in the world that is out and around you. Now, if this year stretched you, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, but it did not break you. It did not break you. It was meant to refine you and align you to a perfect truth. Let me know in the comment section down below, how did 2025 go for you? Of course, listen to your sign that you're going to be listening to, and let me know the truth of what those vibrations are and how they're unfolding for you as you experience the December energy. I love you a ton. I thank you a ton, and I look forward to walking with you in 2026, and you'll see that your 2026 astrological horoscopes are also here to guide you with our team for 2026 through every department of life as well. All right, beautiful friends, enjoy the rest of your horoscopes. Beautiful Aries friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025, where Aries, if you really want to make this month delicious as the last calendar month of the year, make sure that you grab your very own personal natal chart so that as I'm going through the transits happening this month, you can actually see where it's at in your own personal chart and not just here in the general. You can click in my description box down below and grab it. But listen, Aries, this is a month that is going to ask you to use your words and your wisdom with such intention. I mean, you have been learning to speak more truthfully, believe in a bigger version of yourself and your life. And now December brings this alignment between what you say, what you believe, and what you're ready to build. I'm really excited for you. With so much energy going through your 10th house of career, purpose, public reputation, when you know what we call you in public, this is really a defining moment for you because in astrology, this is not the end of the year for us, right? We're just a little bit in the winter time. We're not actually restarting our year until we get to the March-April timeframe. So you have a lot of defining that you are working through right now. And I love it because what it looks like is that you're not chasing success. You're shaping what success actually means for you at this point in your life. So the actions you take this month have staying power, and that is something I hope you take with you from this forecast. Now, whether it's a decision about a career path, how you're seen by other people, or the standards just in general that you are setting for yourself, December is going to ask you to stand on some business, stand tall in your integrity, and let your work reflect your truth, okay? Let's jump in and see what this month has to offer. Right here on the December 4th, we've got a full moon happening in beautiful Gemini energy, and this is going to light up your third house space. Now, this lunation is happening at 13 degrees of Gemini, so you can make sure to check that in your chart. So, some of you might realize how often you've been holding back out of fear. And it's like a fear of being misunderstood from the third house, right? Or perhaps you see that the power your voice has to educate and to inspire other people. This could also be a time of endings or completions or things happening with your siblings, your neighbors, any kind of short-term project that you have. Either way, the full moon is going to ask us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment in this house of communication, learning, your mindset. And it brings a revelation about the way that you speak, you teach, and you share ideas. Now, this particular lunation is also in square to the nodes. So I do think that from an evolutionary lens, this full moon is about maturing your message. It's like you don't need to speak louder. You just need to speak truer. So the conversations could get emotional and reveal a much deeper truth about how words and stories and mind frames have been shaping connections in your life or creating separations, right? Now, I think the joy of this particular full moon is clarity. The pain is realizing that where words once came from, they were from defensiveness rather than for love, right? So you've got an opportunity this month to make an adjustment and have a revelation around that. On the 10th, we've got Neptune coming direct in the vibration of Pisces. This is going to light up that 12th house space. Now, Neptune's direct motion in this 12th house, I think at this point, it's a little bit like an emotional exhale. Maybe even like a spiritual fog begins to lift, and you can finally see where you've been running from your own sensitivity and your own vulnerability. Since 2012, Neptune has been rewriting your relationship with quiet, rest, faith, surrender, receiving. And now this is the final act, you know? So those old dreams or patterns of self-sacrifice, they might surface, but now it's just to have the gentle release. You're maybe allowing yourself to be more emotional or receptive or reflective, maybe craving more solitude or creative time. It's not so much about the solitude. I think it's that you want a space to expand and create. What it isn't about, I think, is escaping reality. It's about remembering that your spirit needs recovery time. Let yourself rest. Healing now happens through softness, through art, through prayer, through forgiveness. Your spirit is whispering, it's okay to stop striving for a moment. Just let's breathe. So enjoy that direct energy. As we get to the 11th, we see Mercury now back into the vibration of Sagittarius, lighting up your ninth house space after some delicious retrograde energy that it took in November. And as Mercury moves here into the ninth house of expansion, publish, marketing, broadcasting, your mind opens wide. Suddenly you want to learn, you want to travel, you want to explore new perspectives. Conversations become more faith-based or philosophical, and you're interested in the why of things instead of like in the Gemini space where you want to know the how. Now you're like, yeah, but why? This can also bring opportunities around those things: teaching, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, sharing your wisdom, teaching, certification, training. There's a sharing of larger scale information. Just be mindful not to talk at people. Right? Let me say that again. Don't talk at people, beautiful Aries. Invite them into your vision. In your personal life, this could actually be something really significant where it feels like faith is returning. Like you rediscover hope, or you're in a different mind and faith space, and you're ready to plan for a little bit of an adventure in the next year. What I can say is the business of faith seems to be a lot about letting curiosity lead you towards the truth. Stay curious, but let humility keep you grounded. When we get to the 15th, we've got Mars entering into Capricorn, where it is oh so happy to be visiting. So this lights up your 10th house space. Now, here's where the fire really starts to build, okay? Mars is, first of all, your ruling planet. And as it moves into Capricorn and to the top of your chart, your career, your visibility, your legacy, your integrity get lit up. You're ready to climb. You're ready to achieve. You're ready to move with more intention. This is the time to take charge. Apply for that position. Launch the project. Set up your personal goals for 2026. But Mars in Capricorn doesn't rush. It actually does not rush here, okay? It builds so gosh dang strategically that you want to build with strategy, because you can. Mars is still Mars. It's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of energy in an earthy worker horse kind of sign. So you have to be mindful of burnout or frustration by building without a plan, or having burnout or frustration with authority figures, right? Instead, we want to channel this Martian energy into a strategy, demonstrating competence, demonstrating leadership. And the joy here with Mars in Capricorn is progress that feels earned. Like, that is delicious. The challenge is balancing drive with that slow crockpot energy of Capricorn that is patience. But make no mistake, I think that this transit puts you in motion, Aries, this month towards something that will have long-term success for you. December 19th brings us to our new moon happening in Sagittarius in your ninth house at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. And this is always going to be an interesting time, because your belief, your education, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, international travel, expansion comes to a place where it's ready for a reset. But while we're being asked to plant our seeds of intention here to begin again, begin something new, this particular lunation is coming with a bit of tension. First of all, it's in square to both Saturn and Neptune. Then we've got a tight quincunx happening with Uranus and a looser quincunx coming with Jupiter here. It still forms enough of a yod to have the lunation be the apex point of this. And this is asking you to adjust your approach. However you are going to go about something, adjust your approach, right? Like, you're wanting to take this leap into something big. Maybe it's that certification, that move abroad, come abroad. Yes, I would welcome you to Spain. Maybe you want to change your worldview. You've got a different perspective, something legal is going on. But first, you need to reconcile something quite practical and have a little bit of faith in where you're going as well. Maybe the timing isn't perfect just yet. Maybe the path requires a stronger, more strategic plan. Thank goodness that Mars is in Capricorn. What I can say here at this lunation is don't lose heart. This is a lunation to help you define what real success, real growth, and the real structure looks like, not the illusion of it, the real stuff. So the wisdom here, because this is a Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter, our wisdom planet energy, is knowing that if you want the freedom, it comes from structure, not from escape. On the 21st, we have got the sun moving into fellow cardinal energy Capricorn. So again, more energy pumped into this 10th house. So the solstice is shining upon you at the top of your chart in your public life, your goals, your reputation, your career, your sense of purpose. It's a moment, I think, to take yourself seriously. Reflect, Aries, on what you've built and what you're ready to commit to next, because what you're doing with every breath that you take and everything that you build is leaving your legacy. What is the name that is going to go with your legacy? But I also think for some of you, this could be the time where you might receive some recognition or responsibility. This is a Saturnian sign, so some kind of responsibility could find you as well. Or when you realize that you've redefined what success means to you, you might find out that you have it already. Okay, Aries, go with that. Now, for some of you, this is going to be a career milestone. For others, it's going to be a bit quiet, more internal, realizing that you're at peace with what you define as success. Either way, the sun in Capricorn says, own your power, because in your power, you'll find your purpose. On the 24th, we see Venus now entering into the vibration of Capricorn, taking us out of our major transits for the month. Now, as Venus joins Mars and the sun in this 10th house, it softens that ambition with some grace. And we're attracting in. Venus is not the hustle hard planet. She's not out here hustling hard. So your reputation, your relationships can benefit from some of this Venusian magnetism. There's a kindness, there's a diplomacy that's coming on now. If you wanted to collaborate, collaborations, social things go further because the mutual respect is there. It's attractive, it's present. Financially, Venus here can bring opportunities to earn or to stabilize your income through your profession or through something that you do in public. Romantically, because we have to remember that Venus is a relational energy. So Venus in Capricorn is drawn to maturity, mature, stable, dependable energy, people who have a long-term vision for life. So, what's the deeper medicine that we're saying here? I think it's that learning that love and success and partnership and finances, they're not at odds. They are just both born of discipline and integrity. So Aries, I think it's a beautiful month for you. You're learning to speak with a new level of honesty, act with purpose, and remembering this month, like we do every time that the sun comes into the Capricorn vibration, that you are building your legacy. And when it's done on the most current truth that is available to you, it's an absolute game changer. Aries, I hope you've had a beautiful 2025. I hope you've had an experience and have had an opportunity to learn from everything that has come to your plate. Now, our astrological year is not over, so I hope you do check out your 2026 horoscope built with your beautiful 5 astrologers walking you through all the departments of life. And of course, stay right here on the channel with me. I'll be walking with you through 2026 as well, every week and every month. All right, beautiful Aries, have a gorgeous month. Let me know how it's going in the comment section down below. Hello, my beautiful Taurus friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025. And beautiful Taurans, before we jump in, if you do not already have your very own personal natal chart, please make sure that you jump in my description box down below and grab it, because the very best astrology is your astrology. This is going to be a general overview of your December, but I want you to have the good stuff, and the good stuff is your stuff. And if you happen to be one of our newer friends here, make sure you head over to stormiegrace.com and grab the free Unlocking Astrology Guide so you can make sure that you are able to participate in this conversation. All right, beautiful Tauran friends, listen, December is a month of that deep inner transformation
But more than that, I think for you, it's watching this brave expansion that you're going to take on. I'm really excited, Taurus, to see what's coming for you. I mean, you're being asked to look at what you truly value. You are a sign ruled by Venus. What you value, what you give your time to, your energy, your heart to. Always looking at, does this genuinely reflect myself? Does this respect my self-worth? These are massive questions, and you're tasked with them this lifetime, but you are more than capable. You've got a ton of energy moving this month through your ninth house of faith, learning, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, international travel, long range vision, all of these things. And it's opening up your world as you expand. But before you rise into that big sky of possibility, there's a little bit of healing happening behind the scenes. And it's particularly in your finances, your fears, and your willingness, Taurus, to let go of some control. Now, listen, still, energetically, this is not a heavy month, but it is a purposeful one. So you'll likely notice that doors are opening more easily in this ninth house area, right? Opportunities to share your knowledge. Mars, the Sun, Venus are all going to come into Capricorn. And so this is a fellow Earth energy, and that creates some very practical ease for you. So let's jump in here, Taurus, and see what the month has to offer. Now, first things first, on the 4th, we've got a full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini. This lights up your second house space. The full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. In this second house, it's about your relationship with money, your possessions, how you allow resources to flow towards you, and your self-worth. So something around your resources or your income may hit this like turning point. But with the moon squaring the nodes at this lunation, it's not about what you have. It is about how you value yourself. So for some of you, you might be wrapping up a job, paying off debt, or realizing that you've been looking for security in things, right? And now you're like, I don't need these things anymore. I need peace. But this lunation can also bring clarity around pricing, around boundaries, about how much of yourself you give away for far little in return. From an evolutionary lens, I think that when we come into a Taurus reincarnation, we're here to do some healing around the wounds of worth. You're learning, Taurus, that your voice, your time, and your goddamn stability matter, and they deserve sacred protection and resource around that. So, the joy that I see here is realizing how capable you are. The pain you may be acknowledging or feeling is just where you've stayed small out of fear. So I think this lunation is nothing but for the best. On the 10th, we've got Neptune coming direct in Pisces. This lights up your 11th house space. Now, as Neptune stations direct in the house of friendships, community, dreams, social media, it all has a spiritual tone. For years, Neptune has been teaching you to discern between the idealism and real connection. And this is like the final act to that insight. Maybe you've been clinging to a group or to a vision and it doesn't nourish you anymore. Or, this is Pisces energy. Are you ready to forgive some kind of old misunderstanding within a social circle, even forgiving technology, right? Not everybody wants to jump on technology. Not everybody wants to be on board with the digital revolution. And you might have your feet kind of stuck into the ground around this. So this could be a forgiveness there as well. Some of you might also have what I would consider to be divine clarity around your role in the collective. How do your gifts help heal and help other people? This is a transit. They say that Pisces being ruled by Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. So I think it softens your edges and helps you to reconnect to hope, Taurus. The fog lifts a bit and you remember that your people exist and they may just be waiting for the real you to step forward and help them. On the 11th, we've got Mercury entering into Sagittarius, lighting up that 8th house space for you. Now, when Mercury comes here, your communication deepens, but it also widens, right? This is an honest and sometimes uncomfortable space where we face the truth around a vision that you had that was actually too big and something more intimate, like you got to have a deep talk around finances, around intimacy, around death, debt, taxes. There's a lot of emotional vulnerability that actually comes up, even though this is our mental energy planet, right? But I think that it's a time where the universe asks you, Taurus, to say what's real, even if it's not easy. Do you have debt? What is it? If you've been holding on to a secret, if you've been suppressing emotions, this energy is going to encourage transparency. And I promise it's going to push it to the surface. Now, the conversations, while uncomfortable or hard or scary, can bring healing, but it is only through honesty. The gift of Mercury in the 8th house is that it helps you say the truth, merge, come out, come from the shadows. But it also forces you to let go of control, right? So it's a nice emotional breakthrough. It can come quickly as well if you just open your mouth instead of trying to hold everything together. On the 15th, we see Mars move into the vibration of Capricorn, where it is absolutely happy to be working. And this is where the energy this month takes a lift. Because as Mars moves into this 9th house for you, it sparks, right? It's going to spark courage. You want to expand your horizons. You want to study. You want to travel. There's a new belief system. It's stretching you from your old limits because Mars here wants action, but it wants action through learning. It wants you to grow stronger through wisdom and getting that wisdom through experience, which you have to do by being in action with it. Now, for some of you, this can show up as you are pursuing that advanced course or degree or certification or something like that. Or, you're taking a bold step and putting yourself out there to teach or to publish or to market or to broadcast. Sometimes simply saying yes to a new chapter of life that has really felt too risky is a big deal for Taurus people. And I don't downplay that 1 ounce because it's a really big deal. The challenge is to avoid rigid thinking or any kind of superiority. Okay. Mars is in Capricorn, which is a Saturnian ruled sign. So there is going to be discipline, not dogma, that is needed on the table. But what joy! Mars is in a place of joy here in Capricorn. The thrill of seeing how far you have come and realizing if you're ready, how much further you can go. Man, that is something to light you up this month, Taurus. All right, as we get to the 19th, we've got the new moon happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is again in the 8th house space. Now, the new moon, it opens in the 8th house, a deeply emotional chapter for you. And it's around transformation. It's around the shared resources, intimacy, and assets. Now, this particular lunation forms a yod. We see a tight quincunx happening with Jupiter. We see a Uranus, and a looser quincunx happening with Jupiter. Now, we also see that there's conversation here with Saturn and Neptune. So there is a tension that has to happen if we're going to get to this breakthrough. For some of you, you may be restructuring debt, finalizing some kind of shared money situation, confronting fears about vulnerability, intimacy, and control. But underneath it all, something in your psyche is being reborn because this lunation is asking, what are you ready to stop carrying alone? And it can bring that fear. It's a mix, really, of fear and freedom. The fear of surrender, the freedom that comes when you finally do. So whether this shows up in love, money, inner healing, the message is clear. You cannot build the next version of your life with outdated beliefs about your worth. Let that old power struggle dissolve, and trust that you're safe to receive, Taurus. All right, on the 21st, we've got the sun coming into fellow earth energy Capricorn into this 9th house space. So the solstice brings light to that house of publishing, marketing, broadcasting, wisdom, possibilities. And you are entering a season of rediscovering meaning. Taurus, life wants you to zoom out, to see how every challenge this year has shaped you into a teacher, a student, a guide in your own right. This could be, as you're heading into 2026, you're feeling called to mentor, or you're feeling called to learn something that reignites your purpose, maybe to explore places that remind you how vast life truly is. The sun here says your story isn't small. It's meant to be lived wide. So let the inspiration flow through this. Conversations about travel, learning, they're all going to light you up at this point in the year, so enjoy. Now, as we're going to close out 2026, 2025, and head to 2026, December 24th, we've got Venus entering into the vibration of Capricorn. Ninth house as well. Venus is joining Mars and the sun, and love becomes an adventure of the spirit. This is an attracting time, so attract it in. This is where our affection grows through integrity, honesty, learning, traditions, shared values. You may fall in love with someone's mind. And even if it's not falling in love with a person, someone's talking to you, they're speaking to you, and there's a version of yourself that you see in them. And that version is braver and wiser, and it like mirrors back to you. And you're like, wow, I can see something different in another person, and it reminds you you've changed, because if you didn't change, you couldn't see it in them. Now, this can also bring some very practical things, right? Maybe you're going on travel with a partner. Maybe you're collaborating, long distance collaboration. Simply the joy of dreaming about what is next. Now, Venus is still a financial energy, as you know. And Venus here in Capricorn is going to support long-term investments in education or things that are an asset to you, investments in any kind of experience that expands your world view. That's really what Venus is doing here. And I think, lastly, I want to just remind you, I know you're a Venusian, but there's laughter, again, when Venus comes here. Travel, romance, a sense that life is stretching you and stretching open, but in the most beautiful way, is a signature that I think Venus leaves you with as we're closing out 2025. All right, my beautiful Taurans, what a year. And remember, the calendar year is not the end of the year for us in astrology. We don't end until March. So for now, trust your worth, release what you can't control, and let faith lead you to whatever your next freedom may be. Let me know how it goes in the comment section down below. Hello, my absolutely beautiful Gemini friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025, where Gemini, December is a month that centers you. Not centers on you, but it centers you. Like your growth, your purpose, your truth. I feel like they sit in the courage of you sharing your heart. It's really a beautiful month. There's some challenges along the way, and we'll talk about those, but there's a lot of rebirth and recognition. So, it's the kind of month that I think really mirrors moments back to you, to see how much you have evolved, and realizing that the next chapter depends on your willingness to be seen as you really are. There's been a lot of layers that have been put down, so I'm excited for you to realize who you are. Now, there's a full moon that's going to be happening in your sign, and that's major energy, right? And then we've got another one moving through your seventh house energy. We've got not another one. We've got energy moving through your seventh house and your eighth house energies. So you're renegotiating that balance between independence and intimacy. And I think that intimacy is where your visibility and your vulnerability show up. So it's really a month of not becoming whole, but celebrating the wholeness of you. That's the way I'm seeing it. All right, beautiful Geminis, before we jump in, please make sure that you have your natal chart. I'm giving you a general reading, which is going to be helpful to guide you, but I want you to have the very best. And the very best astrology is your astrology. So you can't have it without your natal chart. So make sure you click in my description box down below and grab it. Okay, into the month we go, Gemini. Now, right here on December 4th, we've got the full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini, right here in your first house. This is your full moon. And it's a big one. It's sitting in your first house of identity, self-expression, and it's shining this light on how you've been showing up in the world. Now, the full moon is always going to ask us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. We need to let go of what's no longer got purpose and pivot and commit to a direction that does. And this particular lunation has its square to the nodes. So I think that you may feel a bit of tension between who you've been and who you're becoming, especially if the outside world hasn't caught up yet. Like you've switched it up on them and they aren't all, privy to the mail just yet. So this lunation can bring about the revelation for you on other things. And they're not superficial. They're very important to how you're expressing yourself, like your appearance, the energy you bring into the room. What kind of public persona do you want to take on? And maybe for some of you, you are just ready for a new direction, a rebrand of your person or of your business, of how you are showing up in the world. But either way, I think that this lunation is a reminder to stop dimming your voice to make other people comfortable. And the world is noticing you now. But this recognition is not about any kind of performance. It's just because you're showing up with your beautiful brilliance and being helpful. On the 10th, we are going to see that Neptune comes direct at 29 degrees and 22 minutes of Pisces. This lights up your 10th house space, and Pisces is a fellow mutable energy. So this moment is about bringing a bit of spiritual and emotional clarity around your calling. Now, Neptune's been dissolving your old ideas of success since 2012, and now at 29 degrees of Pisces, the very last potent degree, it's asking you to merge what you've learned, merge your purpose with meaning. What is the simple thing that you know how to do and give word magic to so well that it brings meaning into the world? It's interesting because this can feel both raw and inspired at the same time, realizing that once looked like ambition has really transformed into something more soulful for you. You believe in it more. Perhaps there was a career dream that shifts, or a project wraps up, or you're finally ready to trust the spiritual side of your professional path. From the more strategic lens, I think that Neptune direct is asking you here, after all of this time, what does success feel like in your spirit and in your body, and not just look like online, or not just look like in public? So there's a lot of ease that's actually available if you can lean into it with Neptune coming direct. Because in one way, Gemini, inspiration can return. It's creative. It's an intuitive flow around your work or around visibility, and maybe it even feels strong. It's a little bit easier to blend those two and have compassion for yourself as you're going. On the 11th, we're going to see Mercury enter into Sagittarius, again, a fellow mutable energy, but also right across the street in your 7th house. Now, when your ruler Mercury moves into Sagittarius and into your 7th house of conscious chosen one-on-one relationships, conversations with others expand and they get more in-depth and they have more purpose. Partnerships, whether that be romantic, business, any kind of collaboration, they actually start to become the mirrors of your own growth. So listen, I'm like smiling as I'm saying this to you, because this is where you start to see where you changed. You're in different rooms having different conversations about different things, right? Or in a different way, having really important talks about shared goals, beliefs, future plans. For some of you, this is going to bring a new connection, and that connection can be a mentor, romance, business, somebody who comes in who's really important. But what they do is they act as a broadener of your perspective. For others, I think that this will be about understanding where communication styles differ, but you are pointing at the same objective. Be mindful during this transit not to speak over others in your enthusiasm. This is a place to practice real listening, because it's going to become the bridge that helps you learn what's being said and what's being put in front of you, and to also see where your conversation has changed. Now, on December 15th, we see Mars move into the vibration of Capricorn, where it is oh so happy to be, and it's lighting up your 8th house space. As Mars comes here and intensifies this area, it's the house of intimacy and assets. So we do shared finances, death, debt, taxes, astrology, psychological depth, therapy, sex, all lives in the 8th house. It's a very busy place. But this is where life gets real. Emotions deepen, desires sharpen, and you crave at a deep level authenticity and truth over any kind of surface level connection. You know, this can be a time here where there are plenty of financial negotiations or renegotiations that are needing to happen, or you're merging resources in some way, you're taking out that school loan, maybe a school loan's getting paid off, you're setting new emotional boundaries. You know, there's also, it is Mars. So there can be moments where control issues are resurfacing, especially if in this area for you, power feels like it's somehow been unbalanced. The invitation here, though, is courage. Courage to be seen in your vulnerability, courage to set the boundary, the courage to act from integrity instead of just out of fear. As we get to the 19th, we've got a new moon happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, lighting up that 7th house space. So the new moon brings the fresh cycle into your relationships, but it does come this time with a little bit of complexity. We've got a yod that's being formed here with a really nice connection over here to Uranus. That quincunx is nice and strong, but the looser one is to Jupiter, but it's there enough with the lunation being the focal point. And so it's asking you to realign the why behind your partnerships, right? You might be redefining what commitment means to you, or letting go of a connection that has been really limiting your growth, or you're opening your heart to someone new who challenges you to expand. Whatever it is, as the yod gets involved, there's some kind of karmic conversation that's happening here, and you're having to adjust quite a bit. It's not just about who's in your life, but it's why are they there? So from an evolutionary lens, I just wanted to share this since my blend is evolutionary and humanistic. So on an evolutionary lens, I'm looking at the soul level work around reciprocity for you here. Are you partnering from need, from fear, or from truth? So this new moon, I think, lends itself to the question, or to the statement maybe, of aligning your heart and your partnerships with the truest and the most honest vision that you have. As we get to the 21st, the sun now enters Capricorn into that 8th house space, and it does this time every year, bringing solstice energy. And it's a time where you might be drawn a bit more inward to your deeper emotional and spiritual and vulnerable landscapes, because it's a time of regeneration in this area of your chart. And it's Capricorn ruled by Saturn. It's also a season of maturity. So as you're coming more inward, more old fears around control, intimacy, money, shared resources, they can come up, but they're coming up at this time like they do every year at this time for a review. But it isn't a regression. That's the thing I really want to stand on some business with. It's not a regression. It's just for refinement. If you're ready to transform what's quietly been disempowering you, then the sun here is going to offer you the chance to reclaim that energy and stand a little bit taller in how you are maturing, and there's some ease here in realizing that the support that you need, whether it's emotional, financial, or spiritual, it only arrives through honesty. The 8th house wants honesty, and trust deepens when you let other people help you by telling them the truth. On the 24th, the Christmas Eve, we've got Venus moving into the vibration of Capricorn as well. So Venus is joining the sun, the Mars. We've had some new moon energy there. So the 8th house has been quite busy, but Venus here is bringing a softening to this emotional intensity with a bit of compassion, a bit of sensual healing. Intimacy becomes sweeter, deeper, more grounded. In your relationships, this can bring deeper bonding. And it's deeper bonding through shared commitments or tender understanding, that can sometimes lead to reconciliation. Financially, Venus can be here to stabilize joint finances or collaborative efforts, or even to invite and call in a new investment opportunity that feels a lot more aligned with your long-term values. Now, side note, in just my personal practice experience, this energy tends to teach us as well that true love, whether that's romantic or otherwise, it isn't found in consistent excitement, but it's in the quiet trust that we build when we're really real with one another. So where you're getting real and where you're having this vulnerability in some kind of shared space, there's a lot of story and a lot of true love being unfolded there. So Gemini, I think it's going to be an interesting and beautiful month for you. I hope that 2025 has been a place where you see your own growth and that you honor who you've become. You are connecting more with what you believe to be your current purpose, but no matter what, that you're letting truth guide your heart. I'm forever grateful that we've traveled together for another calendar year, and the year's not over for us. Yes, as we do not end our year until we get into the springtime, till Aries season. So keep on keeping on. I love you a ton, and I will see you next month. Hello, my beautiful Cancerian friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025, where December invites you, Cancer, to exhale. It's the final stretch of the calendar year, not the astrological year, but the calendar year. And I think you're being guided to clear some space in your mind and your heart before stepping into new relationship chapters, right? And I just want to call them chapters because relationships can die off and still exist, but they have to die off in the form that they were living in before. So we'll talk about all of that. Now, we've got a full moon that's going to be happening in Gemini, opening up the month in your 12th house space of rest and release. And we're also going to see that your 6th and your 7th houses get quite busy this month as well. Now, before we jump in, Cancer, please make sure that you have your very own natal chart. You can click in my description box down below and get it, because I'm giving you a general overview, but I want you to have the very best. And the best astrology is your astrology, and we can't even get close to that if you don't have your chart. So please make sure you click down there and check that out. Okay, Cancer, into the month we go. Now, right here on December 4th, we've got the full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini. This lights up your 12th house space. The full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. We need to let go of what no longer is taking us towards a goal, so it doesn't serve a purpose anymore. And we're going to pivot and commit to a new direction and go fully that way. But this full moon is kind of cleansing, but it's tender as well. First of all, it's sitting in your 12th house. It's illuminating what's behind the scenes, what's been unspoken or hidden. You might find yourself releasing an old worry, or it's like you're ending some kind of long internal cycle that's been going on. The 12th house has to do with forgiving someone or something that's been quietly like weighing on your spirit. Now, because this lunation is also in square to the nodes, I think that there's a sense of bringing an emotional reckoning. Perhaps a truth that you've avoided or a feeling that you've suppressed finally asks to be felt. It needs to be felt so that it can be healed. Let it come. Let it move through you. It's not a weakness. This is liberation. Now, a way I think to move into some of the ease with this lunation is realizing that once you stop resisting rest, silence, the feeling, your intuition is going to speak so clearly. And healing flows through you at this time through the solitude, through the sleep, the art, and the surrender. On the 10th, we've got Neptune coming direct at 29 degrees of Pisces in your 9th house space. Now, as Neptune is stationing direct at the very last degree of Pisces, the 9th house is faith, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, truth, higher perspectives, long range travel. This is an awakening of belief a reminder that life has more meaning than what the mind can measure, right? So some of you may feel called towards travel, towards, it could be a time where you're on planes, trains, automobiles, boats, and everything else. Study, spiritual exploration, finding deeper peace with a path that you're on in your life. This could be that publishing, marketing, broadcasting. And for some of you, I do think that this is going to mark a period where you're beginning to end delusionment around religion or education or some kind of ideology. It's like you've outgrown what you used to believe in it, and now you're coming at it from a different perspective. It's time to trust again, but we're going to be trusting a bit more wisely as Neptune is now direct. On December 11th, we see Mercury entering into Sagittarius. This lights up your sixth house space of work, daily routines, health, wellness, mental health and wellness, including how you speak to yourself. And when we're talking about work, it's not your career. It's the daily things you do in your career or in your daily life. Now, as Mercury moves here, we're bringing a bit more movement, bringing a bit more mental clarity to this space. So you're ready to reorganize your day, to simplify, to streamline, and focus on the big picture of what truly matters. Now, this can also bring really important conversations about your health, about a routine or some kind of service, like maybe you're being of service to someone, but what you have to be mindful here is to, first of all, remember that small improvements or small changes add up quickly to get you to the big goal. And if you do it that way, if you eat the cake one bite at a time, it's a lot more manageable, as opposed to trying to go at it Sagittarian style, where you're going to take on the whole thing today, and that just leads to overwhelm. On the 15th, we've got Mars moving into the vibration of Capricorn, which it is perfectly happy to be in, by the way, and this activates your seventh house. Things get dynamic because Mars is going to bring movement to your conscious, chosen, one-on-one partnership domain. It's bringing passion, it's bringing drive, it's bringing honesty to the places where you are connecting really closely. Now, the relationships may intensify, and intensify is not a bad word here. Either deeper commitment comes on, or there's like courage to confront and cut away something that's not working. Mars here is going to be cutting through the BS for sure, because it wants balance and assertion, and it wants whatever relationships are in your life to be working, functioning long term. But it's about assertion, not aggression. It's about clarity, not control. So I think in this way, you might be seeing that you're learning to express your needs without apologizing, but also to let other people, once you've asserted your needs, to meet you halfway as well, right? There's a healthy friction that can come to this. Now, Mars is Mars. It can just bring a fight, but whatever Mars is doing, it's to cut away the poison that is in the space that Mars is currently consuming. On December 19th, we've got a new moon at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, again in the sixth house space. So the new moon is inviting new beginnings into your daily work life, your wellness habits, your sense of purpose. But this lunation has got a tight quincunx to Uranus here, a looser quincunx to Jupiter. There's also conversation with Saturn and Neptune. So I do think that while you're trying to get to these beginnings, it's coming with some growing pains. You are being asked to adjust and shift, and you can't resolve the energy around it. You have to feel it through, essentially, and you have to adjust and pivot. This could be adjusting to a changing schedule that you don't necessarily care for. Maybe you're redefining some kind of service or the way you're willing to be of service to the world. You're trying to balance caring for others with caring for yourself. The message here is to simplify. Let go of any kind of perfection that's showing up. Focus on the rituals and the daily routines that restore you and the ones that allow you to be productive, right? Intentional routines bring peace. So keep that in mind at this particular new moon. On the 21st, we see the sun now enter into the vibration of Capricorn, into that seventh house, like it does every year at this time, bringing the solstice, bringing a fresh start. So your focus is going to turn fully towards relationships at this point in the year. Now, you may define or redefine as the case may be, a partnership, set some new boundaries, or see clearly where like mutual respect is needed. I did want to add this in this time because this kept coming, as I was writing this out, it kept coming up for me. But for singles, if you are single, it can bring a meaningful connection into your life, but it's rooted in a lot of maturity. Now, for everyone, as the relationships are coming in, they too are rooted in maturity, but it's about teamwork makes the dream work, right? You're working towards some long-term vision. And while the energy here does feel serious because it is, but it's stabilizing as well. It's about building relationships that can withstand the test of time and the truths that have to come out as humans are growing together. On the 24th, Venus is going to enter the vibration of Capricorn as well. So it's joining the sun, it's joining Mars over here, and it's bringing a sense of grace, affection, a touch of romance, a touch of harmony to a space that's very serious, right? If things have felt tense, I think Venus helps to soften the edges and reopen your heart a little bit. It can be a beautiful time for reconciliation, for simply enjoying the quiet reliability of someone or something that shows up in your life, for commitment. In business partnerships can really flourish when Venus is in the vibration of Capricorn, and marriage is a business partnership, right? Other connections you may have may be business partnerships as well. So allow Venus to bring the charm, the diplomacy, and a little bit of fair exchange in here and enjoy it and receive it. All right, my beautiful Cancers. December 2025, release what is complete, nourish what is real, and let love mature in truth in all of your relationships. I hope that you've had a beautiful 2025. You see the glorious changes that you have made, the way that you have shifted with the world, and you're celebrating who and where you are today. I look forward to traveling with you all through 2026. So I hope you have a beautiful December. Let me know how it goes in the comment section down below. Brilliant and beautiful Leo friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025, where Leo December lights up the spaces where joy and purpose intersect in your life. So it's a month that reminds you that creativity isn't just what you produce, it's also how you live. So I can't wait to explore this with you. But Leo friends, before we jump in, please make sure that you have your very own natal chart, because I'm giving you a general reading, but I want you to have the best, and the best astrology is your astrology, so you've got to have your chart to be able to enjoy that. Click in my description box down below and go ahead and snatch up your chart. Okay, beautiful Leo friends, let's get into this month. As we are coming in December 4th, we've got the full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini. This will light up your 11th house space, so we're highlighting friendships, collaborations, the long-range goals and visions and aspirations you have for your life. Now, it's 2025, friends, so we're also going to put social media and social spaces and organizations in there as well. Now, the full moon is always asking us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. We have to let go of what is not in alignment with the current goal, and then we're going to pivot and commit to a new direction with only the things in our toolkit that are in alignment with the goal. Now, this particular lunation is square to the nodes as well, so it's creating a moment of clarity for you, I think, about who is truly aligned with your purpose on your journey. You might realize that a certain social circle or friendship, it does not reflect where your head and your heart are headed anymore, or that you've outgrown this audience that you once felt was really, really vital, For some of you, this can also be a really bittersweet recognition. The joy of seeing how far you've come, which is an amazing experience, but the ache of releasing it because it doesn't resonate anymore. On the 10th, we've got Neptune coming direct at 29 degrees of Pisces, lighting up your 8th house space. Now, as Neptune turns direct in your 8th house, this is more of a quiet spiritual rebirth for you. It's been dissolving old stories around control and trust and emotional depth and vulnerability since 2012. And now at the final degrees of Pisces, it's this delivery of a gentle but kind of profound closure in this area of your life, Leo, so this can surface as forgiveness. Maybe you really felt betrayed, or there was a betrayal, or there was loss, and you're having this forgiveness come through, or a softening around what intimacy and vulnerability and shared resource really means to you. There is this sense, though, of finally exhaling after carrying emotional and spiritual weight for quite some time, and some of it wasn't even entirely yours. From an evolutionary lens, when I listen to the way the soul speaks through this, I feel like your spirit is saying you can stop fighting the tide now. Just let the love transform you. As we get to December 11th, we'll see Mercury back in the vibration of Sagittarius, so lighting up your fifth house space. As Mercury moves here into Sagittarius, it's the house of joy, pleasure, play, creativity, self-expression, but we also have children in this fifth house area as well. Now, this is Mercury, our planet of communication, so words mean things. And in fact, your words may be carrying a little bit of sparkle again. Your ideas feel vibrant, your heart wants to speak, your children are speaking, there's big news, it's Sagittarius coming from them. So this is an excellent transit to share your voice, particularly publicly, whether you're teaching, you're doing art, you're writing. Simple acts of self-expression can be really great. Enjoy those conversations with children, around children. Romance, passion projects are great right now. It's just the universe reminding you that play and pleasure and joy are just as sacred as all of the other work we do as humans. Now, here on the 15th, we've got Mars moving into a prime and delicious position in Capricorn. It's very happy over here, and this lights up your sixth house space. So as Mars comes here, your focus sharpens. Your focus on work, on health, on daily routines, the way that you give service or are of service in some way. This energy helps you to put form around some of the big ideas that Mercury has been inspiring, right? You'll want to refine your craft. You're going to manage your time differently, create structures in your life that are more sustainable, that honor your well-being, all of that. But there's balance to be kept because Mars is still Mars, and Mars here can drive impulsive decisions, perfectionism, and overextension. So please remember, your mission isn't to do more in order to get less. It's to do what matters with mastery. On the 19th, we've got the new moon for the month at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. This is also lighting up that fifth house domain. Now, the new moon is a chance to plant your seeds of intention and reignite your creative fire. But also, this particular lunation is challenging you to grow with a lot of maturity. We have got a yod forming tightly here with the quincunx to Uranus, a loose one here to Jupiter, plus conversation with Saturn and Neptune as well. So it's a little bit of an alchemical combination here, and it's demanding that you feel the adjustment, the unresolved or the tense energy, and then you have to realign that with joy, purpose, and practicality, right? So you might be launching a creative project. Maybe there's a romance that comes up, or you're rediscovering something that you've been passionate about, right? But it's like you're discovering this after a period of fatigue. And here's the adjustment I think it's calling in, is that the new inspiration, whatever is coming up for you, it cannot be a fleeting weekend gig. It's going to ask for commitment. You can't just flirt with your dreams. You have to nurture those things, okay? But once you start to take those first steps towards bringing that joy in, the universe will come running with enthusiasm and opportunity. On the 21st, the sun enters the vibration of Capricorn, bringing the solstice the same way and the same time it does every year. It's bringing that solstice light into your sixth house. So those structures of health, daily devotion, schedules, health and well-being, this is where you begin to turn your passion, your light, your heat, your energy into practice. right? Maybe you feel more motivated to refine your workflow or the structure around a workflow, or you're finding it easier to make healthier choices. Really stepping up into leadership and maturity into your daily life. And I want to remind you that, man, sometimes Capricorn gets such a bad rap, and it's not about discipline as punishment. That's not what the season brings into our life. It's about devotion to your body, to your daily routine, to a craft that you are taking on. The sun here is asking, how can I care for and build what sustains my light every day? On the 24th, we've got Venus coming now into the Capricorn vibration, again to this 6th house space, joining the sun and Mars and turning your daily life into something more beautiful, right? Venus helps you fall in love with consistency. Wow, how would that change your life? Being able to receive and appreciate the simple movements and the simple moments, the small successes, the quiet intimacy of doing life alongside of traditions and structures and people who value you. This is the 6th house, so we have to consider how this flows into work relationships, because work relationships can become warmer at this time. Venus can come and help soften some of those pokey edges. Your love of life, love of your daily routine grows through acts of care, of reliability. Because Venus in Capricorn is not like Venus in Aries. It is not sharp. It's not that kind of cardinal energy. Venus here whispers that joy doesn't always need fireworks. Sometimes it's found in the gentle glow of daily efforts, shared vision, and creativity that flows through routine. All right, my beautiful Leos, I hope that this month you remember to honor your light by living it daily, rooted in love, focused in purpose, radiant in the truth that you are finding out about yourself at this point in your journey. I thank you deeply for traveling 2025 with me, whether you're new or we're still traveling together. I appreciate you. I cannot wait to hear how December is going for you. Please let me know in the comment section down below. I love you, and I will see you in 2026. Beautiful Virgo friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025, where Virgo, December brings you home to your heart, your joy, your truth, a redefining of success. This month's energy, I think, reminds you that purpose doesn't have to mean pressure, and that success doesn't always have to mean this earth-shattering sacrifice. There's a full moon that's going to be happening in fellow mutable energy Gemini, and this is going to charge up your 10th house space of career and public reputation. So there's some kind of culmination or a recognition of the work that you've been doing that I think is going to be important. But as the month also continues to unfold with so much energy moving through your 4th and 5th houses, the deeper invitation is going to be emotional, and it is to trust your heart again, to soften, and to rebuild your foundation, this time on a lot more love and a little bit less fear. So let's see how this month is going to breathe a little life back into you. All right, Virgos, before we jump in, if you do not already have your own personal natal chart, please click in my description box down below and grab it, because I'm giving you a general overview of the month. But I want you to have the best. And the best astrology is your astrology, and you need your natal chart to be able to have that. So click on over and snatch that up. All right, into the month we go, Virgo. Right here on December 4th, we've got the full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini, lighting up this 10th house space. So the tip top of the chart, public. And the full moon is going to ask us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. So there's this spotlight on your career and your public image, or the title that we call you in public. But also, Virgo, your achievements. You may reach some kind of milestone. You're being acknowledged for your work. You're completing a project. You realize something about the direction that you're headed. But this lunation is also squared to the nodes. So there is this tension between your inner truth and what external success you might be being celebrated on. So it's a great lunation to ask yourself, does this path still feel aligned? This lunation may reveal where you've been performing out of duty rather than devotion. For some Virgos, this can be a bittersweet turning point, right? Because the moment of recognition, followed by this quiet knowing that it's time to evolve, that can be a little bit of a tricky place. But I would like to issue an invitation to have an ease point here. And that is that clarity is going to flow easily if you listen to your body. Go back to your body. If the decision is bringing peace inside of your body instead of pressure, that's your confirmation. On the 10th, we see Neptune coming direct at 29 degrees of Pisces, lighting up your 7th house. Now listen, you have had the South Node in your sign all year. So really the pieces of you that have been leaving because they are not needed anymore, and your need to not have everything pan out with a plan in the material reality, but needing to trust the process of the North Node in the Piscean side, paired with Neptune traveling through Pisces since 2012 as well, there has been a lot of growth in how you have conversations that let your heart feel easier. And as Neptune is going to turn direct here in the 7th house at the final degrees of Pisces, it is marking the completion of a long cycle of spiritual lessons for you in love and in partnerships. I mean, really, since 2012, you've been learning to see others more compassionately and doing that without losing yourself in the process. So this is a moment that I think brings some emotional, but also some spiritual clarity to you. You know, you may finally see someone or yourself through the eyes of forgiveness instead of fantasy. It's tender, but it's absolutely freeing. So whether this shows up as closure, renewal, release, it's a step into cleaner and kinder connection. As we get to the 11th, we see Mercury, one of your ruling planet, not one of them, just the one ruling planet, enter into the vibration of Sagittarius, lighting up your 4th house space. So as your ruling planet moves here into Sagittarius, it lights up the space of home, family, real estate, and property, definitely the emotional roots as well. So this can bring an urge to, first of all, make decisions to declutter, not just your home, but your inner world. I call this the space of the spiritual and emotional inventory. You know, you're rethinking about how you've lived and you're going back and reconnecting with family or ideas and connections that you've had, and you're looking over if they're still in alignment. Did I do the best that I could there? Have I forgiven there? It's like a little bit of a life inventory. And in another way, you could just simply be craving more warmth in your private life. You want conversation. You want a heartfelt kind of conversation that changes your worldview. Because Mercury here reminds you that communication at home matters. What is being said, what is being unsaid, it all can change the flow of how you live, how you experience the world, and certainly your home. So try and bring a little bit of humor into heavy situations if you can, but certainly let honesty be where you rebuild true comfort in the deepest section of your life. On the 15th, we've got Mars happily skipping its little bags over here into Capricorn, where it is more than comfortable to do the work. This lights up your 5th house space, the house of creativity, joy, pleasure, play, children, your chispa, your spark. And as Mars comes in here, it's a beautiful energy for play. It's a beautiful energy for having confidence in something that is a talent of yours. So if you've been feeling a little flat, Mars here can help you rediscover what lights you up. It's a lovely energy. You know, you may also feel a little bit more inspired to pursue something creative. Certainly for those of you looking for it, romantic connections can come, or if you're already partnered up, there's like a renewed little passion that comes in here. But Mars is still Mars. And what it wants more than anything is to cut the bullshit. Mars in Capricorn wants maturity. So what you get to remember here is that you don't have to rush. You just need to build and practice. This is about sustainable joy, not just like a fleeting thrill or a high-flying moment, right? It is something that is built to last. Where can you have joy in your day-to-day moments? As we get to the 19th, we've got the new moon happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, back in that 4th house energy. And the new moon opens up an opportunity to plant your seeds of intention for a new emotional chapter around home, family, belonging, security, your roots. Now, this lunation forms a tight quincunx, a yod formation with a tight quincunx to Uranus, a looser one to Jupiter, and definitely conversation here with Saturn and Neptune as well. So this does create a tension, and the tension cannot be resolved, but the tension will ultimately birth a new wisdom out of you. It just absolutely will. You may be restructuring your living situation in some way, or you have to stand and be in the uncomfortability that allows you to experience the uncomfortability of what it takes to heal a family pattern, because it cannot be healed in a void. Or maybe you're learning, even in your own body, to feel safe enough to have dreams and to have visions for yourself again. I mean, it's a pretty tender lunation, but I think it's a potent reset for us, because it's one that teaches you that true stability here, a truer, bigger picture for your life, comes through emotional authenticity. And that means you've been under a little bit of fire, right? Growth in the family or a living situation is only going to come with patience. And that's where those roots grasp deeper. As we get to the 21st, as we do every year, we've got the solstice, the sun moving into the vibration of Capricorn, bringing that joy, pleasure, play with light, heat, life, and vitality of the sun. This is your reminder that play is not a distraction. It is sustainable medicine. So if you're feeling inspired to share your gifts or your joy or your voice publicly, or to reconnect to a hobby that brought you happiness, or, to open your heart more vulnerably in some kind of love, or your children are having these experiences, the light here says it's safe. It's safe to shine again. Come on out here and do it. Let joy feel accessible, not decadent in your life again. As we're going to close out the month and our year, we've got Venus moving into the vibration of Capricorn as well. Venus is joining the Sun and Mars. So you're wrapping up the year in a bit of warmth and creative grace. But Venus in Capricorn is not like Venus in Aries. It's not high flying and passionate and hot and thrilling. With Venus in Capricorn, love and commitment feel grounded and fulfilling. You're ready for more mature affection, the kind that grows through presence and laughter and shared effort. This can bring romance. It can bring an artistic kind of breakthrough, or simply a season of soft pleasure and self-love can be presenting itself as well, because Venus here is just trying to remind you in a very grounded way that your heart deserves consistency, not chaos. Your finances deserve consistency, not chaos. Creativity, finances, love, they blossom most easily when we stay open and playful, yes, but it comes from a consistency, a dedication to having a structure in our life that is sustainable, even if it's happening in baby steps. My beautiful Virgos, I hope that you have an amazing December. I hope that you honor your heart as much as your work, and you remember that your joy is one of your greatest achievements. Thank you so much for traveling 2025 with me, even if we're just meeting for the first time. Pleasure to have you. And if you're one of the ride or dies, I hope that you have been riding, not dying with me all year long, and I absolutely appreciate you. Please let me know how December goes for you in the comment section down below. I love you, and I will see you in 2026. Absolutely brilliant and beautiful Libra friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025, where Libra December feels like an exhale after a long climb. You've been learning to balance a lot of big dreams with daily realities. And this month, I think life invites you to slow down and to kind of root and reconnect and find a steadiness that truly matters to you at this point. So there's a lot of energy that I feel really good about for you. We're going to open the month with a lot of ninth house perspective energy. So we'll break it all down. First, though, Libra, before we jump in here, if you do not already have your own natal chart, please click in my description box down below and get it, because I'm giving you a general overview of what's going on. But the very best astrology is your astrology, and we can't really enter that conversation if you don't have your own chart to see where this is actually happening for you. So if you want to see how this month is going to bring some real clarity or healing or this gentle restoration to your life, we need to see exactly how it's being done in your specific chart. All right, Libras, let's jump in. Right here at the beginning of the month on the 4th, we've got a full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini, lighting up your ninth house space. Now, the full moon asks us to end something, to acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. And with the full moon here, we are pivoting and expanding the ninth house, which is publishing, marketing, broadcasting, your worldview. But we're also likely bringing closure to something in one of these areas. Maybe it's educational, something that you have believed, something about travel. You know, some of you might be completing that course. You're going to finally publish that project or that book, that YouTube channel, the podcast. There's clarity about ideas and philosophies and beliefs that you've really just outgrown. They don't fit anymore. For those of you dealing with legal situations, the ninth house getting very busy for you can also bring some closure or change of direction there. Now, this lunation is square to the nodes. So there is challenge, and the challenge is for you to really release rigid thinking. What you believe now has to align with how you're actually living. So this is a great time to check in there, because there's a liberation in this. And the liberation is in admitting when your truth has changed, because evolution is always happening here. The more freedom is always happening as we begin with honesty. So new ideas, new perspectives have a chance to flow here. Stay curious. This is Gemini, right? It's a fellow air energy. So stay curious and allow the growth to feel a little bit more exciting instead of threatening. As we get to the 10th, we see that Neptune is turning direct at 29 degrees of Pisces, lighting up your 6th house space. Now, the 6th house is health, service, your daily rhythm, daily routines. So you're bringing a bit of insight at this point into these subtle connections between your body and your spirit, right? You may realize how certain habits or environments have been quietly draining you, and you could finally release that, but you're releasing it without any guilt. Now, you've been working on this area of your life since 2012. So you've seen what's been going on here. I mean, Neptune, this has been a long journey that has taught you that service does not mean slavery. Right? Service does not equal slavery. That's not how this has to go. So instead, as Neptune is coming back direct at this 29-degree point, I think that this is more of a compassionate turning point for you. You know, the final degree of Pisces, it's like, let's heal through some gentleness, exhale, not perfection. So I do like as well that I think with Neptune coming direct here, and because we've already been to this 29 degrees, that the healing and the energy return when you simplify and you allow yourself to receive as well. Let that intuition guide your body's needs and hear where it needs some receptivity. On the 11th, we see Mercury entering into Sagittarius. This lights up your 3rd house space of communication, learning, siblings, your local connections and network. Maybe you're writing a book or a website. This is all very lively as Mercury comes into Sagittarius. And it's actually back in Sagittarius because we had conversation here as we were traveling in November. So now this mental energy and these opportunities to think and to share and to communicate are all coming back with a bit of gusto. Writing, speaking, teaching, it all thrives under this influence. Now, for some of you, you may be reconnecting with siblings. Like I said, those old neighbors, neighborhoods, or old friends, you know, something in your community space. The key here is openness. No matter what's happening, no matter where you're approaching a speaking situation, speak your truth with this gentleness, with this kindness, and listen just as deeply. right? Because this is a great transit to build bridges, but the bridge comes through humor, which Sagittarius is good with their optimism, and honesty. On the 15th, we see Mars coming into Capricorn, lighting up your fourth house space. And listen, Mars is happy as a clam to be over here in Capricorn. It's exalted in Capricorn, so it's ready to do the work. And what Mars really wants to do here in the fourth house is home, family, real estate, property, your internal stability, right? Your emotional security is what we're also taking some action on. So you might just feel more motivated. It's a great transit for organizing, renovating, setting firmer boundaries in your private life. But Mars is Mars as well. So this can stir up tension with your family, with your neighbors, with your roommates. Old patterns of your own BS really resurface. But it's also your chance to lead with clarity as to what you're doing and why you're doing it. Listen, you are a Libra. You are a Venusian, beautiful air energy. Are you falling into some kind of people pleasing? This is the question to kind of peek around, because Mars here is helping you build safety, whether it's in your actual home or your internal stability, through structure. And progress here is going to flow when you channel any kind of aggression, any kind of energy into assertiveness and practical actions. On the 19th, we've got a new moon now happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, back in that third house space. So this is the opportunity to plant your seeds of intention for a fresh chapter around communication, learning, your mindset. But this one does come with some growing pains, because we've got this lunation forming a yod. Now we've got nice tight quincunx here with Uranus, a little bit looser with Jupiter, but the apex point is the lunation itself. It's this new moon. And we also see that there are squares to Saturn and Neptune, who are over in over in Pisces as well. So it may feel like at this new moon, yes, you're planting your seeds of intention, Libra, to begin something new here, but it's like you're having to unlearn before you can actually truly begin. This one may feel like it's having a little bit harder time getting off the ground. So you might be changing the way that you speak to yourself, of yourself, about yourself. How do you express your ideas publicly? And that can be a bit bumpy when we're trying to bring those words up and out of us for the first time, right? But conversation here and continuing to practice this is going to reshape your perspective. And I think that the message of this new moon, even with having to be uncomfortable while you're still taking the action and getting this reality off the ground, is that your words create your world. So speaking in a way that aligns with your evolution or where you want to go is really important at this time. And this is a great time to say too, Libra, if there is something that you really don't want to talk about, this is the time to start figuring out how you can get yourself in a position to talk about that. That therapy that you don't want to go to, it's maybe a time to start to figure that out, or whatever that kind of counseling or help looks like. When we get to the 21st, we see the sun entering into the vibration of Capricorn, as it does every time this year. The solstice bringing that light into your home, your family, your real estates, your property, your roots, your foundations from your beginning, and at this point, you're being guided to rest and reconnect with your loved ones, to redefine, Libra, what does safe mean to you at this point in the journey. It's a lot about, in Capricorn, being very efficient and effective in building something long term. So I think there's a lot of tending to your emotional ecosystem. What are your boundaries, your home environment, your heart? Now, some of you may also feel pulled towards doing that legacy work, doing that family healing, or because remember, Mars is also over in the space as well. You are trying to understand where you came from. What are those patterns? What are some of the things that you've been at war with yourself about that can now begin to be cut away so that you can move forward? Comfort and clarity, they're going to grow in some quieter moments, particularly making sure that home is the safest place for you to restore your balance because you're practicing some other skills this month that might be kind of uncomfortable. As we get to the 24th and we're going to end out 2025, we see that Venus now comes into Capricorn, and what a delightful helper because Venus is joining the Sun and Mars over here, and this is bringing a softening to this home zone, the domestic space, softening your inner world. You know, Venus is your ruling planet, so it does it with beauty and with warmth. It softens your mind and it softens your being around your home and allows your home to become a sanctuary again, or maybe even for the first time. And it can be basic. You redecorate, you cook, you host. There's just simple savoring of the peace that you're creating in your own space. But there can also just be, you know, this beauty in relationships where you're encouraged into emotional vulnerability and learning, maybe for the first time in your life for some of you, maybe again for others, to let love feel safe and steady. It's a beautiful time for reconciliation. It's a beautiful time for really heartfelt conversations or just nesting your space. But again, this is set to the tune of that new moon you were trying to begin. It's coming with conversation and you needing to speak in a way and getting to practice beautiful Libra speaking in a way that maybe you haven't done in a long time, or from a place that is different than where you've been speaking before. All right, my beautiful Libras, I hope that in December you find yourself returning to the peace that comes from within. And from that center, you're able to align your heart and your life with the direction that you truly want to go. Libras, please let me know how the month unfolds for you in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for traveling 2025 with me. Now, whether we're meeting for the first time or you're one of the OG people in our tribe, I'm so grateful to get to spend another year with you. I love you, and I look forward to walking with you in 2026. Absolutely brilliant and beautiful Scorpio friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025, where Scorpio, December is a bit transformative. Just the way your soul likes it. But this time, the transformation isn't about crisis or rebirth. It's just through fire. It's about clarity. It's the kind that comes when you stop clutching and start trusting. So I'm excited to walk through what the month has to offer you. There's a lot of releasing fear, and there's a reclamation of worth and movement in your energy. Now, Scorpios, before we jump in, please make sure that you have your very own natal chart, because I'm giving you a general overview here. But the best astrology is your astrology, and we can't know what that is for you if you don't have your personal natal chart. So please make sure that you click in my description box down below and check that out. All right, Scorpio, into the month we go. Right here on December 4th, we've got the full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini. Now, this is going to light up your 8th house space. So the 8th house governs everything we merge. You're a natural 8th house kind of vibration: money, trust, vulnerability, bodies. And under this lunation, something is being asked to end, acknowledge, or to adjust is what we're looking to make a connection with here. But this lunation has a square to the moon's nodes, and this is bringing in a little bit of tension and complexity. So you may feel yourself pulled between holding on to control of something and actually surrendering to the transformation of it. You know, there's the tension between security and vulnerability, between I need to know and I need to let go. So as this lunation comes, it can bring these endings, these releases, these realizations about more than just control dynamics, but also about shared finances, intimacy patterns, emotional dependencies that we have or have had. Something old may need to be seen for what it is, not failure, but completion. Because it's a closing of a karmic loop when the nodes are getting involved. So it's a lot about detoxing some of these things and detoxing things that have power that don't need to have power over you anymore. On the 10th, we've got Neptune coming direct at 29 degrees of fellow water energy Pisces, and this is lighting up your 5th house space. As Neptune turns direct here, the 5th house is about joy, pleasure, play, creativity, love, romance, and it's also about taking a risk and children live in this house. All of the things that we have to put ourselves out there to take a risk to enjoy them, right? But at the final degree of Pisces, which is really poignant because there's a lot of spiritual movement that is happening and there's an urgency at 29 degrees. So this energy is about softening your heart after a lot of the emotional excavation that was happening around the full moon. I mean, since 2012, Neptune's been teaching you to love without illusion, to express joy not for validation, but as just a sacred act of creation, right? To trust your intuition to create from that space. So now as you begin to see your creativity and you see how it can also serve as like a healing, this may be the closure that you were looking for, maybe even closures for some of you of long romantic chapters that it's time to bring them to an end, or maybe it's the rebirth of even something in your children. You're getting to see them in a different light. Either way, as Neptune is coming direct here, you've already seen this. Neptune has already passed this 29-degree point. It's already been potent. Now you're just tidying up these last little delusions and lessons. On the 11th, we've got Mercury entering into Sagittarius, lighting up your second house space. Now, as Mercury comes back to this second house, because we already saw it in some of the retrograde situation, it's about worth and resources and how you think bigger about how you earn, save, allow money to flow towards you as you share your gifts. So you may find yourself exploring new income ideas. There can be more financial education coming your way or something about business strategies. But this energy isn't just about money. It's also wrapped up in your voice around value. So you may feel more confident speaking about what you offer and how you would like that money to flow towards you, or asking for what you deserve. Remember, currency and trust and having an authority on your own story is really the currency in this big old world out here right now. On the 15th, we see Mars move also happily into the vibration of Capricorn, lighting up your third house space. Now, Mars is your co-ruler as it moves into the house of communication, siblings, contracts, negotiations, learning, teaching. I like to put websites in here as well. It's giving you power in your words. More assertive, more strategic, more clear, cutting through the BS, getting down to what needs to be handled. But Mars, while exalted in Capricorn, also shows that you're starting to act with more maturity. There's something very mature. You're in a different place. Now, this can be a productive time. Mars likes being in Capricorn. So if you need to write, you need to teach, you need to organize your environment, you're going on a short distance trip. This can also be a time, though, where we have to remember that Mars is Mars. Words can be used as weapons here. That assertion can turn into ruthless aggression very quickly. So use your word. You get to choose. Are you going to use your words and your actions as weapons or as medicine? What's your intention behind the words that you're sharing? So use your power to build bridges, not walls. As we get to the 19th, we've got a new moon happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, also the second house energy. And this is the soul work of the month, and it runs deep for you. Because the new moon is landing here in the self-worth and resources and values home, but it's also forming a yod. Okay, we've got this tight quincunx here with Uranus. We've got a looser leg coming off here to Jupiter, but then there's also conversation with Saturn and Neptune. So it's pointed directly at this lunation. So that yod, often called the finger of God, we've talked about this in several lunations we saw this year. It's the cosmic geometry that demands adjustment, right? It's like, oh, this is not it's out of alignment. I'm uncomfortable. You can feel a yod in your body. And with the lunation being the apex of this, you're really being pushed into kind of radically redefining this area by being in discomfort. The discomfort is helping you grow this particular area financially, emotionally, in your value belief. Because that quincunx between Jupiter and Uranus and this lunation, that is an inner tension. That's what those quincunx aspects are doing. I long for a freedom versus I already have the stability.
Then we've got Saturn and Neptune in conversation here as well. And this is in the background, our background singers adding another layer. So it's the ideals versus my limits, my faith versus my fear. So it can feel like at this lunation that the ground beneath you is actually shifting. But in truth, I think it's just a recalibration for you in terms of your sense of worth. So, I think a question to ask yourself, regardless of what you're experiencing around this lunation, is what if you stopped waiting for permission to demand that value or to value yourself, right? Because your stability is going to grow when you trust your own authority, not just the approval. So I would be interested to hear how this is playing into your story this month, Scorpio. On the 21st, we've got the sun entering into Capricorn, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality, and also bringing a solstice. And it's to this third house energy. So you're ready to express yourself. There's calm, there's authority, there's clarity to this. And this transit really does support all the third house things: writing, teaching. It's Capricorn ruled by Saturn, so setting up structures that help a message that you want to share to reach other people, or maybe you're studying something and you're setting up structures to help you gain the information. But it's also a reminder that your mind and your words are so powerful. What you focus on now is really becoming real. On the 24th, as we are ending out our month, we've got Venus now moving into Capricorn as well, joining Mars and the Sun in your third house. Venus here is softening your tone. It's adding grace to your communication. Relationships are going to benefit more from thoughtful words, love letters, quality conversations. So it's an ideal time to rebuild bridges, maybe bridges with siblings, those close friends, your loved ones, because Venus here is reminding you that words can heal and that tenderness and not control is the real power here. So connection, communication, let them flow beautifully as we're traveling at the end of this month. All right, my beautiful Scorpios, I hope that this month you have the courage to release what is false, to honor your worth, and to let truth rebuild the new foundation that you're going to stand upon. I want to thank you so much for traveling 2025 with me. Even if you're new here, thank you so much for joining. And if you're one of the OGs around here, it is always brilliant to have you. Thank you so much. You all have my heart. I cannot wait to hear how December goes for you. Let me know in the comment section down below. I love you, and I will see you in 2026. Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful Sagittarius friends, and welcome to your December 2025 horoscope. And happy birthday, Sagittarius. This month is all about you, at least half of it. Not just who you've been, but also who you have become, who you are right now as you're arriving back at birthday time. We've got a new moon in your sign that's bringing a lot of renewal to every level of you: body, mind, spirit, purpose. But I also love that we've got a full moon in Gemini lighting up your partnership sector. So it's showing how much your self-definition has really evolved through the mirror of other people, right? How are you relating now? So it's a really brilliant month. Happy birthday. Now, Sagittarius, before we jump in and take a look at what the month has to offer, please make sure that you have your very own natal chart, because I'm giving you a general overview, but I want you to have the best. And the best astrology is your astrology, and we need your natal chart to be able to look at that. So click in my description box down below and you can grab that. Into the month we go, Sagittarius. So right here on December 4th, we've got a full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini, lighting up that 7th house space for you. Now, the full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. We need to pivot and commit to the next direction. Now, this is highlighting your conscious chosen one-on-one relationships, whether those are romantic, professional, mentorship, legal, and even your relationship at this point, Sagittarius, with the world. So something reaches a culmination at this lunation. Perhaps it is a partnership, or, sometimes commitments can actually deepen as we come to a full moon energy, but it's certainly a place where there's going to be some illusions around partnership that are also dissolving. Now, this lunation is squaring the nodes, so there is a tension that is present here, a destiny tension between independence and interdependence. So you're learning the difference between freedom from and freedom with. The mirror of partnership is showing you
what you're ready to release, right? A pattern that has kept you from being fully yourself, fully seen, fully heard. And I love it because this is a reminder that growth happens in connection, but it's also a reminder of where you've come. You know what I mean? Like, you are not behaving in your relationships the same way you were a year ago. So celebrate your progress. On December 10th, we've got Neptune coming direct at 29 degrees of Pisces, lighting up your fourth house space. Now, as Neptune's going to station direct here at these final degrees of Pisces, the 29th degree is known as the anaretic, or like a crisis urgent degree. And this is powerful for you because it's happening in the fourth house of home, family, real estate, property, your roots, your emotional foundations. This is really pulling on the depth of your chart. Now, since 2012, Neptune has been dissolving what kind of false sense of home or false sense of belonging that you've had, right? It's blurred these boundaries and softened maybe some of the defenses that you've had around home. Maybe it's even made you question where and with whom you truly feel at home. I mean, for some of you, it has honestly been, where am I going to live? But now, as it's stationing direct at the very edge of Pisces, I think you're reaching this threshold moment. It's one last invitation to surrender any kind of fantasy you had and really start to embrace what's real. Because the 29th degree is not a crisis of loss. It's a crisis of completion. The final chord in a long spiritual symphony gets cut, and you find yourself releasing stories, particularly around your family patterns that just are not working out anymore. On December 11th, we have got Mercury entering into Sagittarius. Now, as we see Mercury come to your first house, it's amplifying your voice, your wit, your vision. You know, you're pretty magnetic under this energy right now. So what you say is going to land. It's a great time to use this energy to express some kind of truth, to teach, to say something, say it with your chest out, is this kind of energy. But you're also a natural storyteller. So if you were telling your story, creating content, doing any kind of public speaking, I think that this would be a wonderful transit to see how well you're actually standing out and how big and clear that confidence is. On December 15th, we've got Mars moving into Capricorn, lighting up the second house space. Now, as Mars comes into the second house, it brings drive and determination and movement and energy, but it's about building stability. You're focused on your money, your mind's on your money, your money's on your mind, but it's also about resources and self-worth. But Mars in Capricorn is about endurance. This is not whatever you're going to build. It's not going to be done in a rush or in a race or in a weekend. So this is an ideal transit to set up long-term financial goals or take real tangible steps towards your next chapter of independence. You're learning to act from grounded confidence and information and not just impulsive, it's maybe going to work out on vibes kind of energy. As we get to the 19th, here we go. We've got this new moon at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, and this is your new moon. The cosmic reset that you wait all year for. It's your birthday moon. It's a rebirth of identity, self-expression, and your direction for the next year. But it's not all coming under ease at this particular lunation because this lunation forms a yod, okay? So we have got this quincunx happening really tight between this lunation and Uranus, but then a looser one there, Jupiter, forming the yod formation. And the yod asks you to integrate the energies that are coming down into it. Now, we've also got conversation here with Saturn and Neptune. So there's an integration here as well of spiritual truth with practical mastery. It's also a vibration that I feel like in the yod and in the uncomfortability of it, you're having to just be uncomfortable and let that tension show you where you're feeling stretched. Maybe you can't imagine the next step, but as you're being stretched, you become uncomfortable enough to become innovative to a new solution. You're becoming the teacher and the example
of what you're learning in your world. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. As we get to the 21st, we see the sun enter into the vibration of Capricorn now in your second house, and it brings the solstice like it does every year. So now the sun is bringing light, heat, life, and vitality and putting a spotlight on security, money, values. And after a month of all of the identity rebirth, I think this helps you ground that new vision for your next year into some form, because now it's about practicing what you believe, not just believing it, right? Saving wisely, pricing confidently, nurturing habits that reflect discipline and self-worth. It's kind of like the emotional healing that you've done this month begins to take its material Capricorn shape. On the 24th, we see Venus now coming into Capricorn. And as Venus joins the Sun and Mars in Capricorn, it's bringing a blessing to this second house with grace, with abundance. This can definitely be a transit where finances improve, but also, so can your sense of beauty and self-respect and comfort, being willing to live in comfortable abundance, not scarcity. You're learning that love and money follow the same discipline and the same love. They both expand where you feel worthy of receiving it. It's a wonderful time for manifestation, particularly through gratitude, creativity, and number one with Capricorn is consistency. All right, my beautiful Sagittarian friends, I hope this month you trust the person that you have become. I hope that your truth and your peace become your new home for this next year of your life. As always, please let me know how the month is going in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for traveling 2025 with me. I love you a ton, and I can't wait to see you in 2026. Brilliant and beautiful Capricorn friends, and welcome to your December 2025 horoscope. And Capricorn, happy birthday this month. But before we get to all the happy birthdays, we've got this really sacred pause right before your annual rebirth and building a lot of trust in that silence so that you can embody that power as the sun shifts into your sign. It's really this month, that bridge between the endings and the beginnings that we experience every year at this time. You have spent so much of these last years shedding layers, letting go of beliefs, identities, expectations that no longer match who you've become. And now we're going to see some energies move in. Mars, the sun, Venus, all come to your sign and prepare you for a rebirth that feels earned, not rushed. Okay, beautiful Capricorns, before we jump in, please make sure that you have your very own natal chart, because I'm going to give you a general overview here, but the best astrology is your astrology, and we can't engage that conversation if you don't have your natal chart. So click in my description box down below, go ahead and grab that, and then you can align where these transits are happening with your own personal chart. All right, my beautiful Capricorn friends, before the light returns, the beginning portion of December is going to invite you to sit in the stillness of your 12th house, this realm of mysteries, dreams, release behind the scenes. So I want you to go into this forecast with the wonderment of what within you is being rewritten. Because whatever it is, it requires this first portion of the month to have rest and trust and grace in order to be born. As we're coming into the month on December 4th, we've got a full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini. This is lighting up your 6th house space. Now, the 6th house is about health, habits, daily routines, your daily rhythm. It's also about mental health and wellness, how you're speaking to yourself. So it's a check-in moment for you, where the full moon is asking us to end something, acknowledge something, to make an adjustment, because we need to pivot. So as you're checking in with your body, how you care for it and deal with it on a daily basis, your work, your routines. Now, this particular lunation is also square to the nodes, and this may bring some friction between what you do every day and what your soul actually needs you to do, right? So you might see where over responsibility has kind of crept in, or where burnout has become your norm. Now, the invitation here is to let go of control as your method of survival. That's very much so that Virgo South node, right? Let go of control as your method of survival. Instead, it's teaching you that surrender through structure, and then that will help you create a life that supports your intuition, your inner peace, and your productivity. Really interesting lunation. As we get to the 10th, we're going to see that Neptune comes direct at 29 degrees of Pisces. This lights up your third house space. Now, Neptune coming direct at these final degrees of Pisces, it's a sensitive spiritual moment because the 29th degree energy has reached a culmination, and we've already been here once, but it's the final act of this particular show, right? Since 2012, Neptune has been teaching you to listen between the words, to trust your intuition as logic, and to communicate from empathy, not defense. So you might be having these experiences of an emotional release, but you're doing it through writing, speaking, connecting with a sibling. Maybe you're realizing that you don't need to be understood by everyone because this is the final act of surrender before the next chapter begins as Neptune officially takes its ride through Aries. So remember, this anaretic degree, 29 degrees, it is a representative of wisdom born from experience. What once confused you now might feel more peaceful because you're no longer in need of every answer, right? This is your spiritual graduation in communication. So there you go. As we get to the 11th, we're going to see Mercury move into Sagittarius, into your 12th house space. Now, Mercury is pulling your thoughts inward. You may feel more reflective, even nostalgic. You're revisiting memories or dreams, particularly ones that have shaped your worldview. I also say in this 12th house space, if you've had ideas, actions, beliefs, behaviors that have been holding you back from the world because of a particular worldview, you may be confronting some of your own prejudice at this time. But this is an excellent time for journaling, meditation, spiritual study, writing down what has happened for you in this last year, birthday to birthday time. What did you see? What did you learn? What did you let go of? Now, messages as Mercury travels through the 12th house can come in all forms and fashions. We're seeing signs, signals. We're seeing subconscious things. In your sleep, you're getting more intuitive nudges. Don't rush to interpret everything. Just let the meaning reveal itself and kind of pour through you. On the 15th, we see Mars move into Capricorn. Very much so happy, very much so comfortable in this particular energy because Mars is exalted in your sign. Y'all like to get stuff done. So now we're beginning the awakening. When Mars moves into your sign, it is recharging your energy. It's recharging focus. So after weeks, sometimes it can feel like months. For some of you, it might have been months of this introspection. You're ready to act. You're feeling more motivation return. But the thing is that I like about it at this point in your journey is that I think all of that motivation is coming back, but it's with intention and maturity. This is power rooted in awareness and integrity and experience, not just ego, because you're going to be becoming visible again. But this time, it's not about proving it. You're not like, I don't need to prove anything. I'm just embodying the truth of what I've learned. I'm embodying my experience, and I don't need everybody to clap for me. I'm just willing and ready to move forward. But you're doing it out of alignment, not urgency. And that is what I love about this energy. On the 19th, we've got a new moon happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. So it's whispering more than it's shouting as it's happening in this 12th house, that realm of closure, healing, unseen, behind the scenes. Now, this lunation forms a yod. We've got a nice tight quincunx here with Uranus, a looser one here with Jupiter, but both forming the apex point being this particular lunation. So it's asking you to release spiritual clutter, because we've also got some conversation with Saturn and Neptune here. It's asking you to release a bit of spiritual clutter
before your personal new year begins, but there's something here you're uncomfortable, right? It's like you're walking between two worlds. Part of you is ready to launch forward, and the other feels like it's still like trying to release something that's unfinished or it's stuck to you. Now, a piece of this, I think, can be this questioning of the universe to you to kind of reconcile the space of reality and faith, right? Like, how do you forgive without losing discernment? Or how do you dream that big dream without being delusional or in denial? Now, from an evolutionary perspective, this lunation is going to close a 12-year karmic loop. So you are in fertile ground, fertile time happening for you right now where something is coming to a close. And the strategy here is to remind you that rebirth requires rest, not always the hustle. Stillness is your fertile ground. The breakthroughs will come in the solitude, in the quiet, in the journaling, in the spiritual routine. Ritual is the word I'm looking for. Now, on the 21st, we see the sun come to Capricorn. So happy birthday, Capricorn. The solstice marks your annual renewal. The sun shines light into your first house of identity and vitality. After inner work of recent weeks and months, you are re-emerging wiser, softer, more sure of your direction, another year older and into your maturity and your time clock. This season is about walking with your truth, but it's with such a gorgeous confidence, but it's quiet. Others may notice a shift in your energy. Maybe even you're glowing differently, because you glow differently when peace replaces striving and the hustle. When you just build a discipline or a consistent container for yourself to thrive in, you glow differently. So the clarity here that you don't need to chase, you magnetize through presence, and the clarity of self also, I think, helps you understand the clarity of the path that you're on, right? We get to put down that being everything for everyone vibe. Now, as we're going to close out the month, we see Venus coming into Capricorn, joining both Mars and the Sun, bringing a warmth, a beauty, and an ease to your expression. You're much more attractive and magnetic to the world around you. You attract love and opportunities. It's like it's flowing towards you. You're more charming, but you're grounded charm. You're not that Aries fire charm, right? Like, like you've stopped trying to be impressive now, or you've stopped all of these things. And all of a sudden, the simple, real, quality, long-lasting things like money and relationship are flowing towards you. Now, relationships often soften when Venus comes in. Your self-worth can deepen. But more than anything, I think Venus is a reminder here that love flows easily when you honor yourself first and allow grace to replace all the effort, right? It's time to treat yourself kindly. If you want to change your hairstyle, get those new clothes, try some self-care, or simply be witness to your own life and authenticity, Venus helps you enjoy that without being in the performance of it, right? So beautiful Capricorns, it's your month, it's birthday time. And more than anything, as I think about your December and the year to come, I hope that you rest, you release, you rise, and you allow peace in new places of yourself to be your new strength. All right, my beautiful Capricorns, as always, please let me know how the month goes for you in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for traveling 2025 with me, whether you're new or you're one of our OG teammates. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I love you, Capricorns, and I will see you in 2026. Absolutely brilliant and beautiful Aquarius friends, and welcome to your December 2025 horoscope, where Aquarius this month is both a closing chapter and a preparation for something larger. You know, the energy is pulling you inward before it expands you outward again. So it's a really interesting kind of month. I can't wait to see how it unfolds for you. Now, first and foremost, before we jump into the month, Aquarius, if you do not already have your own natal chart to follow along with the transits, please make sure that you get it, because I'm giving you a general overview, but I want you to have the best. And the best astrology is your astrology, and we can't know that if we don't have your natal chart. So please jump to the description box down below and head over and grab one from me so that you can make sure you have what you need to really be in this astrological conversation. All right, Aquarius, let's jump in and see what this month has to offer. Now, right at the beginning of the month on the 4th, we've got a full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini, lighting up your 5th house space. The full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. We're letting go of some things that don't have any purpose and are not moving us towards the goal. And we're pivoting and recommitting to a path that really does. Now, in the 5th house, this is joy, pleasure, play, self-expression, creativity. It's also around children in your life. So there's some moment of clarity, probably around something that you desire, or maybe something like a creative project is coming to an end, but there's a reconnection with something that is really true with your most inner self here. Now, this lunation is coming with a square to the node. So it's pushing you to balance what is your own personal joy with the collective, to remember that pleasure itself is not selfish, it's essential, and that you can't keep giving to the world. You can't do your best work if you stop dancing in your own fire and your own intuition and what really makes you you. There's been this balance between producing and surrendering, and I think you're really experiencing it under this particular full moon. Now, from an evolutionary view, this lunation is about really just reclaiming that joy as sacred and as purpose. The strategy here, I think, is learning that creativity doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. When we get to the 10th, we see Neptune coming direct at 29 degrees of Pisces, lighting up your 2nd house space. Now, as Neptune turns direct here, it's at the final degrees of Pisces, the anaretic degree. And the 2nd house is value, income, worth, the way that you allow money to flow towards you. So this is really a moment of spiritual culmination for you, but it's one that began years ago. You've been working on this since 2012. And at 29 degrees, Neptune completes a long set 30 degrees of lessons. It's been teaching you that true value doesn't come from the possessions or the performance, but it comes with believing, getting in the right vibration, having compassion and integrity to allow these things to flow to you, right? It's a reminder that money is as spiritual as anything else in our human experience. So maybe this is a time as Neptune is coming direct, you're releasing some confusion around money, your body image, your pricing, and you're moving with a little bit more spiritual confidence. You're finally realizing what spiritual worth is, that it's internal, it's not just transactional. So there's a purification around your values, particularly at 29 degrees, that I think you're experiencing here. And trust me, man, peace flows easily when you ground your money in gratitude. When we get to December 11th, we see Mercury step into the vibration of Sagittarius. Now, Mercury is coming back to this 11th house. Now, we had a conversation in this 11th house space in November, right? So the 11th house of the dreams, the friends, the aspirations for yourself, the organizations you're connected to, your social spaces, including social media. This is giving you a little bit of momentum in that area. It's good for long-term big vision planning. Maybe you feel inspired to reconnect with your community. You're building a partnership. You're brainstorming and sharing more ideas publicly. Maybe you're even traveling to really go learn with your boots on the ground and not just in the book. Now, this is also a beautiful time in that social area to talk, to teach, to launch, to just express your ideas more openly, because your ideas not only carry hope, but I think they're going to carry a fair amount of direction as well. Be your beautiful self, stay flexible, especially as we're approaching this new moon, okay? When we get to the 15th, we've got Mars stepping into the vibration of Capricorn, where it is oh so happy to be because it is exalted over here. You know, Mars and Capricorn energy really do like each other, but Mars is coming into Capricorn for you into the 12th house space. So first of all, this can be a time where I'm going to suggest to you, Aquarius, especially you are made of so much electricity, to make sure you get the energy burning out of your body. Move, 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 move. Now, that sounds counterproductive to what I'm about to tell you as well, but it's about getting some of that Martian energy out of your pores so that your body and your nervous system are not firing on overdrive. Mars in the 12th can make your sleep life absolutely a restless disaster, or your dream life so busy that you go to bed, get good sleep per se, but you're like, I was so busy in my other realm that I'm not sure if I'm well rested, right? Now, Mars here, despite what I've just told you, the action, the direction of your action and your motion is around rest, retreat, and reflection. So it's quieter, it's more internal energy, but it pushes you to face some old fears around these things, around being allowed to create a structure to rest. It allows you to release energy that doesn't need to drive you anymore. You know, now it really can stir that restlessness or even a bit of emotional fatigue if you insist on not slowing down. But it's also your chance to align your actions with your intuition, right? So if you're going during the day and you hear we need to slow down for 15 minutes and you trust that intuitive vibration and you're moving from that inner knowing instead of the external pressure, this can be a great example of that. For my researchers, this is your vibe. Oh my goodness, finding, digging, going through that information, getting it done, building anything behind the scenes, yes, all the way. And we cannot forget that the 12th house can also bring affairs. So if someone starts creeping at you through the 12th house, I would just ask a lot of questions. Are you married? Does someone believe they are married to you? These sorts of things. As we get to December 19th, we've got the new moon happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, lighting up again that 11th house space. Now, this is your pivot point because we had the pivot of the full moon, but at the new moon, we pivot into a completely different purpose, vision, community. And it's not necessarily an easy one as you're planting your seeds of intention to bring this to reality, because we've got a yod that is formed with the apex point of it being this new moon. Now, Uranus is retrograde here in Taurus, Jupiter is retrograde here in Cancer, and you can see it's creating a base tension of growth. And it is tense because you can't resolve the quincunx. You can work with it, you can learn from it, but it's an unresolved kind of energy. And so through this new moon is the direction that energy is trying to express itself. So the pattern itself is saying, something in this foundation has to evolve before this new moon, this purpose can really expand. Now, Uranus, being one of your rulers, is challenging you to redefine, what does security look like? What is the money? What are the finances? What does making you look and feel grounded in this material realm look like? Breaking free from the comfort zones around the home, the money, the identity is really something we have to get out of. It might be comfortable, but if it's stagnant and there's not life there, you can't really create your new start there. Jupiter here is asking you to refine service and care and security and foundations and home. But it ensures that as you're giving to other people and as you're giving to your organizations and your tribe and your social group, that it is not at the cost of your well-being. Now, we also see that this new moon is in square to both Saturn and Neptune, who are here in Pisces, and this brings the question into sharper focus. Can you dream big while staying grounded in your reality. This is a lot at this new moon. This is an entire conversation that you're considering as you plant your seeds of intention, because this lunation, to have this expansion get off the ground, it will test your faith. But they will also reshape your purpose into something that's truer and wiser and more sustainable. So you have your activation for your next calling happening right now. A push towards purposeful community, conscious leadership, but it's also about rediscovering the joy in contribution, not just contributing because that's what you think you're supposed to do. On the 21st, we have the sun entering into Capricorn, lighting up this 12th house space. Now, this is the solstice coming in, giving us a fresh start. The sun is bringing light, heat, life, and vitality, signaling a time for rest and spiritual restoration. The year has stretched you, honey. Listen, I can't even think about your year without having a little like, ooh, you have grown kind of chuckle, because listen, right now, at this point, at this solstice, your spirit, your system, you need gentleness, right? It's a call to, okay, you have done a lot. Good job. Good job. And so taking this quiet time to, first of all, reflect on your last year of life. What has happened for you? To rest, to prepare for your own solar rebirth as we are coming into January. You know, this is your inner retreat before the spotlight returns. Jump into that cocoon, honey. Jump into the cocoon before it is time to transform into the butterfly, because we will have Pluto in your sign, continuing the stretch and the transformation and calling your energy genuinely into the world and into our society. So allow the solitude to restore your strength, and let reflection become a sacred act of self-care and renewal for you. On the 24th, we've got a little helper coming in. We've got Venus coming into Capricorn as well, joining Mars and the sun in this position. So it's wrapping your year in a bit of softness as you're reviewing it. You know, Venus here is attracting in and looking at those relationships, and they could be deepening, but they're deepening through compassion, quiet acts of love. You might reconnect with someone from the past, or you feel your heart expand open with forgiveness for them, for yourself, forgiving society. You know, Venus here is reminding you that truly real love and real beauty are timeless, and they don't shout. They whisper through peace, through rest, through routines and structures that allow you to rest and tend to your spirit, through closure and through grace. All right, my beautiful Aquarian friends, I pray that as you are traveling December, you let your vision be guided by love and not by pressure. And that you remember what a big job you've come into this incarnation with, to have your truth serve the whole. All right, beautiful Aquarians, please let me know how the month is unfolding for you. Please let me know. I hope to hear comments from all the Aquarians saying, I'm resting, Stormie. I'm doing my Venus reset program. I'm allowing myself some downtime. I want to hear that from every single one of you. So let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you for traveling 2025 with me. I love you, and I will see you in 2026. Absolutely brilliant and beautiful Pisces friends, and welcome to your horoscope for December of 2025. December is such a sacred month. I mean, I think it's one of the most sacred months that we've had in years, honestly. And it's not just another turning point on the calendar, because in Western astrology, this is just ending the calendar year. We still have months to go in our astrological year, right? So we're not just turning the page on the calendar. It's like the completion for you of a spiritual chapter that began in 2012 when Neptune entered into your sign. And now this month, Neptune is going to station direct at 29 degrees of Pisces, the very last degree of your sign. So your entire sense of self and faith and purpose, I think, reaches a moment of real
revelation for you. And I can't wait to unfold and talk about the illusions you've been shedding about who you thought you had to be, stepping into a new reality of who you are. This month is 0% about becoming something new. It's just about living in a conscious daily remembrance of the soul that's been there the whole time. All right, Pisces, before we jump in and take a look at the month, please make sure that you have your very own special crispy natal chart, because I'm giving you a general overview, but I want you to have the best. And the best astrology is your astrology. And we cannot have that if you don't have your natal chart. So please click into my description box down below, grab one, you get a beautiful full report with it so that you have something to work with. And as we go into 2026 and other videos on this channel, you can use that chart to find out all these astrological conversations that we talk about every week. And I really want you to be a part of the conversation, okay? All right, Pisces, let's jump in to December. Now, right here on December 4th, we're going to see that we have a full moon happening at 13 degrees of Gemini, a fellow mutable energy, lighting up your fourth house space. Now, the full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. We need to pivot and commit to a new direction. Right now, this particular full moon in the fourth house is the space of home, family, real estate, property, your roots, your parents, your inner foundational and emotional world. So something about your inner stability, whatever makes you feel like you are secure and belong, is coming into focus. Whether that's where you live, who you trust, your family, how you nurture yourself, something is being shown under the light. Now, this particular lunation is also in square to the nodes. So I do think that this is a moon that challenges you to kind of reconcile this tension between the past and the future, home and career, comfort and calling, right? You might be feeling stretched between the safety of what's familiar and that pull of expanding. But remember, you can carry your roots with you wherever you go. That's a big feature of this year. That South Node has been working in Virgo, being like, it's not all going to make sense on paper, right? You're not going to have the full plan all the time. You plan, and then you have to let the universe do the heavy lifting. And that's that North Node in Pisces, you know? It's a perspective and a moment where I think you're asking, where do I truly belong? And I get to belong and create a home wherever I decide I belong and create a home. And from a practical, strategic standpoint, I also think that this lunation does ask you to build more peace in your life, not just shelter. You have the home, but is there peace in the home? Right? These kinds of things. As we get to the 10th, we see Neptune coming direct at that 29 degrees of Pisces, lighting up, obviously, your first house. And this is the moment you've been waiting for. Neptune is your ruling planet, one of them. And at 29 degrees, it's an anaretic degree in your first house of identity, selfhood, your external environments as well. So this is the final chord of a 13 and a half, 14 year symphony that has really dissolved things in your life, dissolved relationships, reshaped you into who you are now. And the 29th degree is about mastery, but it's mastery through experience. What you have, you earned, right? And you've learned the difference between compassion and like erasing yourself, which are two completely different things, between avoiding things and having a conscious chosen surrender, between what is really love and what is an illusion. So now as Neptune is stationing direct, I think that the fog is lifting. And it's not because the world changed. Okay, they're still doing what they're doing out there, but it's because you see it differently. And that's something I like to call spiritual fitness. So for some of you, depending on, what else this touches on in your chart, you might feel these last pangs of emotional, nostalgic, or even maybe some of you are feeling a bit weightless, right? Like a weight has been lifted from you, like something, like a deep internal tide is like turning now.
So there's a grace that's happening here, but it is definitely, I think, a sense of completion. It cannot be rushed. Okay. We've still got to let Neptune, move on and get back into Aries, but you have earned your clarity through surrender. So buenissimo to you. When we get to December 11th, we see Mercury in another mutable fellow, Sagittarius, lighting up your 10th house space. So as Mercury comes here, the 10th house is about career, your public reputation, your titles, what do we call you in public, how you serve the world. And so it's giving voice, literal voice, to your truth. And whatever that truth is, even if it's an evolving truth, right? You're saying it out loud. So you might be receiving more public attention, more invitations to things, people being inspired, or even your own inspiration around your work. This is your chance during this transit to communicate your wisdom and to share what you've learned in ways that are very Sagittarian. They uplift other people. It is not the time. Here's an example. It's not the time for this. Let's say that you have found some kind of liberation in your life, right? You're in a different place financially. You found your way out. Your marriage is going very well, whatever it is. So you found liberation. It's time to joyfully go to other people and uplift them to help them find their liberation, not to preach at them and point a finger, right? Because Sagittarius can get on that high horse. Now, it's also a really good time to clarify your message. First of all, whatever you're sharing and you're talking about, who does that serve? Who is that to serve? Why are you sharing that information? And what story are you telling as you're expressing your truths out in the world? Because the words that you're going to speak really carry a lot of impact. As we get to the 15th, we see Mars entering into Capricorn, where it is all so happy to be because it's exalted over here. Now, as Mars moves into Capricorn, it lights up your 11th house space of your friends, your community, your tribe, your long-range goals, your social impact. I like to put social media in here as well. So there's a steady motivation to build something that's meaningful for others. Some of you might really feel this renewed desire to collaborate or to join a group, or to take on some kind of leadership role that feels like it has a lot of purpose, because Mars in Capricorn is really grounded ambition. It's the energy to follow through, get it done. There's no flash. We're not doing it quick, but I'm going to follow through with what I'm building. So you're really learning to turn vision into structure when Mars is here, but Mars is Mars. Okay, Mars is still Mars. And this can, if there's going to be conflict, if there needs to be conflict to clear the air, or there's something going on in a group, it's teamwork makes the dream work in the 11th house. And if everybody's not on board with that, some clear boundaries may need to be set. As we get to the 19th, we've got a new moon happening at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, again, back in that 10th house space. So it's an opportunity to plant the seeds for a new chapter in your career, your public life, your purpose. It invites you to also redefine what success at this point in your journey means to you on your own terms, and then to align what you do in the world with that success, because what you deem to be success is who you are going to become, right? It's the same thing. They go hand in hand in hand. But this particular lunation does come with some challenge as well. And I think it's more of a sacred tension, because there's a yod formed between Uranus and Taurus, Jupiter and Cancer, and the base of it, the apex, is the new moon itself. So wow, packing a punch into this lunation. Now, these energies create discomfort. They create a discomfort that you really can't navigate around. You need the spiritual crossroads tension to sit there with you, right? Because the discomfort is your call to realign your personal truth, Jupiter, who's one of your other ruling planets, and your message that has value through Uranus with what's really right for your internal world and what you're sharing in an external message. And that's the moon. Now, this lunation also has some square to Saturn and Neptune, who are over in your sign, just making sure you are really a grown up before they leave. Okay. So it's bringing both weight and awakening like at the same time. So you might feel this push. At the new moon, you're trying to plant your seeds of intention and get something to be birthed. And this one, you might be feeling like it's a little bit harder to get it off the ground. You might feel the push between the idealism, but then the realism is here as well, between the vision and the practicality. The test is to integrate them. Dream without delusion and denial, and then work without being so completely rigid, but in a structured way to bring the dream to reality. Your purpose expands when you lead with your authenticity, right? And your public life is simply at a base level, your soul's private truth being expressed in action that we can see. On the 21st, we've got the sun coming into Capricorn, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality, and of course, the solstice as well. So now we've got this illumination and again, some more motivation around your friendships, your community, your collaboration space. The people you connect with now will reflect your next chapter. So it's a time to find your soul tribe, your soul team. Those who believe in your vision hold space for your growth, and you get to do the same for them. And it's interesting because, the community support or where you belong arrives naturally when you share the truth of a goal that you have, but it has to be open and sincere. Because what you're saying, what you're doing, your vibe attracts your tribe is really what's going on here. On the 24th, we are ending the month quite sweetly in the general, with Venus coming into Capricorn. Venus is going to join Mars and the sun here. Venus is adding some harmony and some grace to your connections. Maybe you feel a little bit more drawn to call in deeper friendships, or you want to collaborate more creatively with people, not just so much about business, but creatively. It's also a time to practice receiving the love and appreciation from your community. You give so much. You're a natural giving energy, but often with the giving energies, we have to remember to practice receiving as well. And now love wants to meet you. It doesn't want to meet you halfway. It wants to say thank you for the giving. So enjoy it. And I do think in many relationships, this is Venus and Capricorn. So some of the giving and receiving, or the receiving part anyway, maybe feels a bit easier because your relationship feels steady enough to accept the nourishing. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, however this truly unfolds for you, Pisces, I hope that this month that you find the grace and the space to remember that you have returned to yourself. You are whole, you are clear, and you are ready to live exactly what it is that you believe. All right, my beautiful Pisces friends, I hope you'll share what's happening for you as the month is unfolding in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for traveling 2025 with me and letting me travel with you. Whether you are new to the channel or you're one of the OG people here, I love you, and I'll see you in 2026.